Hello! Welcome to our second edition of our very, 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 very unprofessional podcast. This time we have a couple of new co hosts. We have Melanholyspirit, or Maya, very,
Hello, hello.
very, very talented artist.
Thank you.
And then we have Scorn, or Lily, who is a very, very talented writer.
Thank you.
And once more, we have Hand the Panna,
And it's
or
me.
Hannah, author of one of my favorite fanfics I've ever. I just realized that my two favorite fanfic authors are in here right now. That's
Oh.
amazing.
Oh, please. Oh.
There are my favorite authors in here, and I'm just sitting here like a silly little artist.
Oh no.
You
5 minutes
guys.
in, we're already crying. Anyway, yes, this is our scuffed podcast, and we're all Megmillan shippers, so it's just gonna be a bunch of Megmillan shippers talking about DBD stuff for however long we end up talking for. But I'm so very excited, and you can tell by the title. But today we're talking about the survivors of Dead by Daylight. Actually, just their character lore mostly. We're gonna be talking about because I mean everyone has their own opinions on the survivors lore, their own, you know, what their own. Oh God, it's so scuffed. Their own.
Like
Yes,
interpretations.
exactly. Thank you, thank you. Their own
Yeah.
interpretations of
I
the
got you.
lore and the characters, and DV has quite a bit of lore for each of their characters. So we're going to be talking about it a bit, and obviously this is just our, you know, our interpretations, our opinions. Like, I've this is definitely not any sort of guaranteed fact that we're spitting here. This is all just our, own personal viewpoint of this. So don't take any of it too seriously. But I just want to talk a little bit about DVD lore before we begin. Um, I really like video game lore. I feel like not everyone actually cares about the video game lore. Some people just play the game to play the game, while other people, like us, actually really like the video game lore, especially concerning the characters in it. And DVD is a prime example for that. I think it does a really good job with uh, giving us lore to work with and giving us a whole overarching story, and I really like it. Um, but I think the most important aspects of video game lore is that it makes the video game investing for some people. Like people keep coming back for it because they want to
Hmm.
read more of the lore. They want to read the lore to begin with even. And I think DVD does a good job with that too, making it something that people look forward to. But also for some people it's immersive. Like reading the lore helps you better understand the game, and then when you play the game, you can feel almost part of it. Not everyone,
Oh
obviously.
yeah.
Not everyone gets immersed in the game when they play it, but for a lot of people, they really do. And also, like I mentioned, the lore gives context to the game, and I mean, it makes sense that you want to know what's happening in the game and why it's happening from a lore standpoint. Not everyone cares about that, but for a lot of people, it just makes sense. Like, imagine someone new joining the game and never having read the lore and wondering why there's a big spider coming from the sky to take people. Yeah, the lore helps explain that.
Yeah.
But also, the lore acts as a way to expand the game. Because honestly, the lore makes it better. I think games that don't have lore are still good, but games that do have lore, like Dead by Daylight, are even better. And it gives you a chance to do all sorts of things. Like there's going to be a DVD comic about the Legion in a couple of months, which is awesome. But not just
Yeah.
that, I mean, TV shows could be made, books could be made, a lot of things. And it also is just a way for discussion to pop up, like, I mean, we're doing right now, so.
Yeah, indeed. I
Yeah.
really respect behavior for like starting out with telling everyone that they can interpret characters as they want. They didn't give us all the details of the lores when the game just started out.
Yeah,
It gives room for interpretation, and
exactly.
it's great.
Exactly. I mean, it's still
Oh
being
yeah. I think
released
it's
to this
part of it
point, right?
too.
We get a new tome every couple
Right.
of months. I really like that. Like, I kind of wish
Oh
all
yeah.
the lore be released at once because I want to read it all, but at the
I
same
know.
time,
God,
it's a
there's
good
so
And
steady
especially
much
the
of
drip.
it.
ones
That leave up on a cliffhanger, and it's like, oh no, I want to know more, and you won't know more for another,
Exactly.
whoever knows how long.
Exactly.
and we have so many survivors that you can wait forever for that one survivor's lore.
Mhm.
And when it finally comes, it leaves you on a cliffhanger.
Oh, no, that's
Painful.
so true. And yeah, like that's exactly what it is. But you, here's a question: what makes good character lore? Because you can have lore for all of your characters in the game, but that doesn't make it automatically good. Even though I think DBD did a good job with most of their characters, if not pretty much all of them. And I think their few main things are, first of all, of course, how relatable are these characters? Not every character has to be relatable to make them good, and, being relatable doesn't always make them good, but a lot of the times, characters that resonate with people are the ones they relate to the most. So I think that is an important aspect. And it also kind of creeps into representation. How much of your lore and how many of your characters represent certain minorities. And I think DBD more so now is doing a good job of that. So, but maybe it always has. I don't know. I'm not one that really, I'm already
I think it's
represented a lot.
been a
So,
really, oh,
no, it's
sorry.
okay. Sorry.
I think it's been a real, like, as kind of like Maya said, it was like up to interpretation, and so they didn't give a lot of
Yeah.
like strict representation, I think, other than kind of having different nationalities of survivors. But now it's like they're trying to say, oh, hey, these
Yeah.
people are actually this. And I think they're doing a good job, yeah, like I said, kind of integrating more representation without it just being kind of quote unquote like fan service. Like there
Yeah.
it seems really authentic and real, and it just is really nice for them to actually start doing that.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people,
Like
even
David's
though.
tome. Ugh.
Oh, sorry, my bad.
Oh no, you're good.
um, I
Uh,
think one of the most prime examples is even though it wasn't explicitly stated, a lot of people see Meg as having ADHD, and a lot of people see Claudette as having autism or, social anxiety, and that kind of stuff. That's really important. It's interpretation, obviously,
mhm.
but even just having that little bit of lore that makes it, you know, makes that's interpretive is really good. And yeah, you were mentioning David's lore, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I just got finished reading a whole bunch of lore last night, and his I didn't read yet. His like most latest one with when they came out saying he was the first like official LGBT character, and it just felt so real, and it wasn't just, oh hey, he's gay. It's like, no, there was just this actual story without just shoving it in your face, and I really liked that.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Agreed.
David's lore that from the tome was the only one that made me actually cry because I felt the pressure on the character. It was so good,
Hmm.
beautifully written,
I
best
loved it.
tome.
Yeah, we'll
I
talk.
believe
Oh,
they consulted with actual members of LGBT2 to gather their experiences and apply it
yes.
to David. They did a really good job because there's a lot of backlash because behavior. The DBD community is the DBD community, so we have a habit
Oh
of
yeah.
flashing at behavior for breathing and not actually taking a look at what it is they've done, whether that's patches or even the content of a particular tome around a particular character. David was no exception. His was a little exaggerated with the reaction, in my opinion, but
Yeah.
yeah, actually taking a reading, looking, people would actually look and read. There's a lot of what he's gone through in his story that's very relatable to what actual people who have, his hardships of coming out would experience.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. That's such a good point. And we'll
as
talk more about that
yeah,
when we get to David later on.
yeah,
But for now, we'll move on because there's another aspect of writing and lore that I generally think is a very important one, and that is making the character have a story that allows them to win or lose, and especially stories that allow the character to win, because then people get to cheer for them, you know? And if this character does something and has a huge victory, then when you play them in the game, you'll see them as sort of a hero. And so giving them something to work toward is also really important. Not every single character has this, but when they achieve it or when they don't achieve it, you feel it. You feel either a stab in the gut or you feel proud and happy for them. And another aspect is very similar aspect is that the story of the character is either emotionally or thoughtfully provoking. Like if you read the lore and you feel the emotions the character is feeling, then the lore is doing a good job. If you are left with some questions or some thoughts, then the lore is doing a good job because it's telling a story, but it's trying to tell a story that will have a lasting impact on you. If you read the story and you're like, "Oh, okay," then that story didn't really do a good job of capturing your attention. But I think most of the DBD lore does a good job of that. Um, and then, of course, the drama, the clinchers, the stuff in the story that makes you want to read it more, the stuff that makes you go, "Oh, I can't wait for this character to get a second tome." I think a lot of the DVD characters are like that, and it makes them interesting. It makes them unique. Each of them have their own stories. Each of them have their own drama. I just love it. But yeah, all those things make a character's lore good, and I think most of the DVD characters have them. But there are also things that make DVD character lore not so good. And I'm not sure if any of these apply to any of the character lore. Maybe that'll be something we have to discuss. But for one, if the DVD lore is a bit conflicting as to what the character is described as, I can't think of any examples right now. But if you have an image of what a character looks like in your head or what a character acts like and it doesn't match with the lore, then is that really your fault or is that the fault of the lore writers? Honestly. Because each of the DVD
Hmm.
characters come out with their own little bit of lore, right? You don't have to
Uh,
unlock the tomes to see that little bit of lore on their character profile. But then if you read that and then later read the tome and think, are these even the same character? Then they probably didn't do a good job.
Nurse, cough, cough, nurse.
Well, there's the example. Um, Another thing is that the lore, this is very debatable, but some lore just doesn't do anything to further the character. It tells you a story, but it doesn't really help to further explain who this character is or what their motives are or what they were trying to achieve before their time in the entity's realm. Again, I'm not going to give any examples because I have none on the mind, but it is a case that some character lore, and I'm not like speaking specifically about DVD here, but some lore doesn't do the character justice when it comes to this. But, most do, so. And then we have
yeah.
the fact that sometimes the lore is just unclear. It's unclear what the lore is trying to explain. It's unclear what picture they're trying to paint for the character. And I can think of an example this time, but I'm not going to say it because they'll be the first character we talk about. And then we have Out of Place, which falls very similar into the other aspects of the lore, but some lore just seems out of place. Like, why was this lore written? Why was this expanded upon when there's so much more that the character that could have been described about the character? And that's just one of my least favorite things that happens in some character lore. Not specifically speaking about DBD, but sometimes the lore it just seems like they missed their mark. They had such good material to work with and they just didn't use it. But yeah, those are just a couple of things about lore writing, and I'm not trying to be a lore critic here. I actually think Behavior did a good job with all of their lore. I mean, better job than some, worse job than others, but um, I think the writers actually did a fair job to pretty much all of their works, and I applaud them for that because writing, especially lore writing, is not easy. So, but yeah,
Yeah, and for the
sorry about
amount
that.
of characters they have, it's impressive that they are still keeping it up and still making characters that are fitting the lore.
Hmm.
Although the new one is kind of, well, it's a first
Talk
for
about out of
We,
place.
yeah,
God. My God, yeah.
yeah. I think that was a uh, a new, unique. I think they're trying to do something here. They're trying a new approach, and I guess we'll talk about later if we think they hit that mark or not. But from what you guys are saying, I'm hearing no. But anyway, is there anything else you guys would like to say about generally the lore?
Oh my gosh, I blanked. Never mind.
It's okay. It's okay.
Let me think of it as we go on.
I
Yeah,
think I was gonna say it's
oh,
like you said where there are some lore bits I think that are better than others. Sometimes it feels like there's two separate DVD lore writers, and it's ones that write Nurse's tome and ones who write Philip's tome. So it's either really good or it's also just not good. But and then there's
Hmm.
some I think that fit in between where they're okay. They're not fantastical, but they do maybe enhance a character a little, or maybe they just give some substance to the character. But just generally speaking, I do think the lore, for the most part, is good, pretty good for the most part. I think I've had more that I enjoy than more that I don't.
oh yeah, I agree with that entirely. And I think what one thing we have to keep in mind though is that the DVD writing team is that it's a team. It's a bunch of different people, and
Hmm.
not every single person's train of thought is exactly the same. Especially not when the DVD writing team probably changes a bunch. Like people leave, people come, people
Hmm.
leave, people come. So it's very likely that stuff like the nurse's lore happens, where things just get changed or there's some things aren't agreed upon, but it's still a flaw regardless, and I'm sure eventually they'll come around to fixing it or explaining it and making it better. Because they have a lot of opportunities to do that, to work with what they have and make it better. I believe that they can do it. And if they don't, we
I mean,
fanfic
and
writers
that's
will.
like, yeah. And like that's the whole process of even just writing itself, is
Yes.
that as the more that you do it, the more that you'll learn from it. So I think that you know, they go in one direction and maybe, oh, that was not recepted well. Like maybe let's not do that again. Or they might, kind of finding their groove. And I think especially for going from like the first tome that was released to now, or even like just survivors, like the lore that they come with, you look at the original four and they have a little paragraph that's super vague, but then you have like the most recent ones where it's like an essay and it's
Mhm.
just free lore that you're just reading about them. And I think that's really cool that they've just, you can see the difference in their writing and that they have improved even along the way.
Mhm. Exactly. My only gripe is I actually saw this on Twitter this morning, but someone was complaining about how the lore was locked behind the tomes. Like you have to complete the challenges to unlock the lore, which I agree with because I don't even have all the all the lore unlocked, so I have to read it from the wiki. And they just said themselves, I think that behavior realizes that people just read from the wiki. It's like, yeah, maybe. So maybe that's something they could look at changing in the future is the accessibility of the lore. Because a lot of people do
Yeah.
like reading the lore. It's just that sometimes they can't because they don't have it all unlocked. So maybe that's something they should look at in the future is changing how that works. Um,
It's
Not that
especially
I think it's a bad
problematic
idea
if
to lock the lore behind tomes and challenges, but like, what about the people who don't have all the challenges and tomes unlocked? Maybe never will. Like, and the wiki's not always accurate too. So,
it's especially problematic if the tome like continuations and continuation of the story is hidden behind very hard achievements.
mhm.
Hmm.
Oh yeah. Like, I don't want to escape a trial with only no mither just to read a little bit of David lore.
Oh,
Oh God,
the
I remember that
worst.
one. That was so
Oh,
bad.
the self
Did
care.
it
The
on my
self care
first
one's
try.
even
Fuck
worse.
you.
Oh my god. But yeah, that's something I'm sure they'll look at in the future because they've been doing a really good job with listening to you know, people's perspectives on things. So if they hear that there's a problem, they'll probably look at it. But I think we should start with talking about the characters independently now, shall we? What do you guys
Oh,
think?
yeah.
Now
We
I'm not gonna.
shall.
Sounds good to me. Want to dive on in.
Yeah. So I'm not gonna cover most of the licensed characters because they already have their lore written. If you want us to talk about their lore, then I mean, their lore is already written out in their respective games or movies, so we don't really need to talk about them. Not that they're not good characters to talk about, but we're looking at the DVD characters mostly, with the only exception, I think, being Yoichi, because Behavior did write his lore independently. So we will talk about Yuichi because, just kind of like Ghostface, his lore is original, even if the character itself is not. So Thus, we will begin at the very start with our four main boys and girls, and we'll start with little Dwight Fairfield. Now, before anyone else says something,
boy.
for those who read the last podcast, you know me, Hannah, and Turkey were talking about Dwight a little bit. And the running joke there is that we don't really like Dwight Fairfield, and I'll explain why. It's just okay. I have no explanation. I don't know if it's his
Listen, it's
lore
just
or if it's the
Dwight.
character or if it's just Dwight. But what do you think, guys? Why do you think that the people don't like Dwight?
I I think it's the lack of lore because he was technically the first survivor to come to the fog, and there is so little written about him. His character, from his perks, especially like leader and prove thyself, his little things he says under that perk description can give away so much character, and yet he doesn't have that in the lore. He's just a boy whose life sucked and he was like left behind in the woods.
I know, and that's exactly what I was going to say. It seems the character they were trying to build when they first, made Dwight Fairfield didn't end up matching the lore, which I feel like happens a lot with DVD characters and what is one of their biggest flaws. But I'll explain a little bit more. So, from his perks and from his little description on his profile character, we learn that he's a nervous leader. And paints you an image of who he is, right? And even how he holds himself in the lobby, he looks nervous. He looks like someone that doesn't want to be there and has a million anxieties about the world. And it's a little conflicting that he's a leader but also so nervous. But that makes a really interesting story, right? So when you go see that he has a tome, you expect that to be explored a little bit. And maybe it's just my interpretation, but when I was reading his lore, I didn't pick up any of that. I didn't feel like the lore did any justice of
Neither.
explaining that or delving into who he is as a character. But I don't know, maybe you guys saw a little bit more into it than I did. But I just felt like Dwight Fairfield, how I know him from the game, does not match up with the Dwight Fairfield in the lore.
Yeah, and it like from his tome, him, he finally, you kind of get that glimpse, but then it like also unravels itself by the end of the tome because he, is trying to like yeah, by the end of his tome, it's like he's trying to make a difference and oh, I'm gonna, spike my boss's drink and do this, not like to harm him, but like I'm gonna teach him a lesson. Don't be mean to us small people. But then it just kind of really unravels because it all goes wrong, and then his tome ends with like it's gonna go right or if my name isn't Dwight. Like it was so cheesy. I hated it, and then of course it all
Yeah.
went wrong. So it's like there's still that kind of aspect of why would I want like where's the leader aspect of this
Yeah.
person, or why would I want to follow someone kind of like that where it's just it was interesting.
Even more so, how he got taken by a fog. They just left him behind the woods. That doesn't sound like a leader. That doesn't sound like someone
Yeah.
who's is at the front of the group. That sounds like someone who's at the back.
Yeah. And I think, they did a good job because I know there's, people that can relate to that if we're talking about like really relatability,
Yes.
but it conflicts with the lore that they're also trying to tell. So it's
Mhm.
like they kind of wanted this, oh, he's relatable, but he's also this thing that not a lot of people are, but
Mhm.
you can be that, but not really. And it just kind of really is telling multiple different stories.
I agree.
And I don't think they had like a clear vision of what they wanted to do. And I think that, of course, they made him before they probably ever thought that they would get to the point to do tomes and to be able to expand on lore and stuff. But
Mhm.
they had a lot of opportunities that I don't think that they met. But they can in the future, maybe. But for right now,
Yeah, I agree.
Roy's just Dwight.
I
Yeah,
think
there's
they
something that
built
always
him
rubbed me
to
the wrong
be.
way.
Sorry, Scored.
I would say there's something that always rubbed me the wrong way about him being this, this adorable, nervous leader, reluctant leader, aspiring leader, you could say, and then him spiking somebody's drink. Which,
Yeah.
here's the thing, I think I don't know if they intended his motives to be ambiguous or not. But the So it's clear through his tone that his boss is a narcissist, an abusive one at that, verbally, and he wanted to find a way to get back at him or teach him a lesson, so be it. And I feel like there could have been way better, healthier avenues that they could have went into for Dwight to make a difference in the office, other than a crime.
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
Yeah,
because
I
like it could
agree.
have been a good story about him overcoming his silence and becoming that reluctant leader in his office by finding a way to stop the abuse, the verbal abuse going on in his job. But like it kind of falls flat when he does so by very unconventional and kind of in dangerous means. um
Mm.
so it's just, I don't know, I have mixed feelings about it because I know I can kind of sense the message they're trying to go for, but there's just so many other better ways it could have been done.
Oh
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
definitely.
So
Like,
I could see him just standing up for the group, speaking up, trying to protect his fellow uh, workers against the narcissistic boss, but they went a totally different direction. It is something, truly.
but not the right thing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, that was horrible. What the hell?
I just I feel like they wrote him to be the everyman that everyone can relate to, but they didn't even really succeed at that, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, I think Dwight is supposed to be Dead by Daylight's everyman, but he doesn't even feel like one. So
And then
he feels like
not
nothing.
everybody. Oh wait. God.
I'm sorry, Dwight. I'm just roasting you now.
I, I was like, not everybody is gonna spike someone's drink. Like I just I don't get that. Maybe like be pushed to the point of blowing up in a meeting and being like, "Hey, you're a jerk. I don't
Yeah.
like you." I don't know, just something, but it kind of definitely fell off a little bit.
Yeah.
Became very unrealistic, if I'll be honest.
Probably, yeah. But I mean, it's Dead by Daylight. Name one thing that's realistic.
The other thing that is bothering me about Dwight is that he became the joke of DBD. Like every event if he gets a cosmetic, it's something to bully him for, like the paper rolls or the elf or Dwight in a box. It's all to make fun of him. I understand he is some kind of mascot of the game, little less than Trapper, but why bully him that much?
Yeah, because then it's like they put him out there to be like, hey, he was bullied and he's this person, but they like kind of wanted him to be relatable, where it's like, we get it, we get it, we get there's people out there that are bullied and are left behind, but now, as you're saying, it feels like they're almost mocking him.
Yeah,
With his
exactly. That's what it
cosmetics all
feels
the
like.
time, where it's like,
They're mocking him.
yeah. And so then in turn, it's like, how do you look at him and be like, yes, he's relatable. He's who I want to like aspire to be, when he's just the mockery of the game now.
Yeah, they turned the freaking
Or even all the
everyman into a
jokes and
joke
all that.
character. Is that what they think of their fan base?
Oh God.
I'm just kidding. But no, like, for how much I joke of Dwight, like, I mean a lot of it. Like, he deserves justice, though. He deserves justice.
Yeah,
They could do him better. They
he
can do my man
does.
better. And I hope they do. Not before, like, the characters who haven't gotten a tome, though. I don't care about them that much.
Yeah, didn't he get 2 tomes or has he just gotten the one? I don't remember.
I think just
He's
one.
just gotten one so far.
He's in the one. Oh, okay.
Although
Yeah.
he's had some extra excerpts from other tomes, such as the Emperor Dwight.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah. What was that about?
That was, like, a
No, I
different
think it was
universe,
supposed
Dwight.
to
Oh my gosh.
yeah, it was meant to introduce the idea of alternate universes of the entity. So yeah,
That brings
had
up a
that.
question. Is the Dwight that we see in game a different Dwight from the one that's in the lore? That's what it feels like, honestly.
Oh God,
I
now
know
we're
it's
gonna
not
get
meant to
meta.
be, but geez, that's what it feels like sometimes.
It's a possibility.
I don't know, maybe. Who knows at this point? But I agree with you though. Like he deserves better cosmetics. I'm gonna be honest.
Hmm.
I like his best one is the hooked on you one, honestly, and that one's meant to be a joke one too.
I liked his kind of matching one with David though, or it wasn't matching,
Oh
but
yeah,
it
that
was
one is cute.
matching. like,
Yeah,
like the Valentine's Day one, I think that came out. Yeah, that was
yeah.
cute.
Oh no, it was supposed to be matching. Come on, you
Hmm.
can't.
No, I
At
definitely
this
agree.
point, everyone ships Dwight and David.
Even behavior shifts Dwight and David, I'm pretty sure.
Doesn't his voice actor ship them too?
I don't
Oh
know.
gosh.
Probably,
Oh, that would be
honestly.
hilarious.
Feels like everyone
But I
ships them.
love how in like every event, when they have the different, like pictures and then like a quote from the DVD team or the dev team, and there's always one of them that includes David and Dwight together, and I'm like, oh, okay.
Well, remember like their Valentine's thing where I can't remember if it was Dwight or David, but they wrote a card for the other. Like,
Oh
I think it was
I
yeah.
know they're meta and they
David.
like making jokes, but at this point, it doesn't even feel like a joke.
Just putting out there, I think that they also made one like for like Evan or the Trapper writing to Meg. So they ship Megmillan as well.
Oh my
Just putting
god.
that out there.
I mean,
That
they
was
always
years
include
ago, but
Meg
they
and
put
Evan
out like a
together,
card.
so it's pretty much
Yeah.
canon at this point, guys. But no, like I think most of the people they're being serious when they say that Dwight deserves better though. I think people do genuinely believe that Dwight deserves better, even though sometimes people just dumb him down to the nervous little guy who hides in lockers. Like I know he's a joke character, but
He
they could still
deserves
give him some
justice.
sort of semblance of an intelligent piece of lore. So you know. Well, anything else you have
Yeah.
to
And
say
then he's
about the
not just
nervous little
someone
boy?
who this is oh, I'm sorry, go on.
I just said, anyone else have anything to say about the nervous little boy?
Oh. I was just agreeing. Like, yeah, they just it would be nice to give him something that gives a little bit personality. More
Agreed.
personality. That's not just haha, Dwight.
Ah, Dwight.
But those are my final thoughts.
No, that's my that's exactly that's good final thought, Dwight. Dwight. Oh my god, but I feel like we're gonna spend like 30 minutes on the next character. What do you guys think?
Oh,
Oh God,
love
yeah.
it.
I'm
Meg
thinking
frickin'
of your hours.
Thomas. Huge difference from Dwight's lore. My
Oh,
goodness.
my love of my life.
She's amazing, and I think we could all agree with that.
Oh yeah,
Oh yeah.
incredible. I don't like
Mhm.
how the how the community bullies her for
Yeah, I
being the
feel sad
Meg
sometimes. So many people hate
because she
her.
has a very good lore, in my opinion, at least. And the
Yeah,
backstory of her mother and the bills and missing school for to help.
yeah,
It's relatable. It's hard. It's a hard topic.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. And it's like,
I think Meg, she like her tome, is kind of unique to me, where it's it's enough of a story where it really enhances her character and her motivations as a person, um, but it's also not anything grand, and that
mm-hmm,
keeps her grounded in a sense. Because some of these other tomes about some of our more, you know, air survivors would have a lot to them. um, they have some, this big fantastical event in their life, whether that's Yui's race or, Jane's conflicts in in Hollywood, essentially, and all these huge, big events in her life. But Meg's is really subtle in that hers is really a smaller event, but it still changes and affects her deeply.
oh yeah,
And
exactly.
she's grounded and she's relatable.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I like about hers.
I don't know why people sleep on her all the time. She's great. She's
Maybe
just
it's
dumbed down
because
to
of
a
the
meghead.
yeah.
Like, wait, like, I'm a Meg maid, and not just because of the lore, but because how she looks. Like, she doesn't look anything special on the outside, but like,
Mom, she has a six pack. You can say that.
I don't know. I think just the way she stood, just how she looked confident but yet nervous but careful. I don't know. I can't really explain it,
Mm-hmm.
but She's nothing special, but at the same time, she's amazing. Everything perfect. And I think that pretty much
Whereas
sums
if
her
you're
up.
talking about like being relatable,
Yeah.
versus like Dwight and Meg, it's like Meg definitely you can pick out stuff that I think people go like, yeah, like I understand that, or like that would be kind of really relate more to something, and just her determination and like in her tome lore and how it expands out just on so much without saying a lot. But you see her personality, you see her struggles, you
Mhm.
see this, and you like want to know more even just after this short little story.
Exactly.
I think that's really cool.
We're not just biased.
No, of course not.
Oh no,
I
like
really loved the Tom expansion with her winning that race even with a broken ankle or whatever happened to her ankle. I don't remember if it was broken or not.
probably.
The determination that let her win was just so spirit lifting and
Mhm.
incredible in a way. Just
Hmm.
makes you want
Oh,
to,
absolutely.
yeah, go on, keep up, do whatever you want to do,
Yeah.
finish it. Go on with your life. You can do it, right? Win
Yeah.
that race.
And I think it's really good that after you read the lore and you start feeling good about her and about yourself, and then you look at her, like her general lore, and you think, oh, but that's going to be all taken away. Because she won't even end up all that hard work to be the best, and she doesn't even end up getting into the college that she wants to get into. Well, she apparently, according to her cosmetic, she does, but she can't stay because now instead of devoting her life to sports and being the best and running, she has to be with her mom, and that just rips all those good, good, happy feelings away all of a sudden.
I think that's what makes people so easily invested in Meg on an emotional level because she does
Mhm.
something that I'm sure a lot of us would consider doing too. You know, if we have a parent that's very dear to us and maybe nearing the end of their life, you want to be there for them. And it's a hard decision to make, but also a very, humble one to make. Because
Mhm.
she could have lived her life successfully with her career, but she chose not to because she loves her mother.
Mhm. I think people see sports as something really selfish. Like you're beating all the other people to achieve something. But then Meg suddenly goes in and does the most selfless thing ever and gives up her entire future so she can be with her mom
Hmm.
and take care of her mom. I think those two
And the worst part
parallels
about
are
it,
perfectly done.
yeah, and the worst part about it is knowing that she's going to be taken away.
Yeah.
So she's living her life in the fog right now and not knowing whether or not her, time has stopped for her
Mhm.
or whether her mom is already gone. So that's a lot. It's very emotional.
It is. It is.
Think about it. I cannot imagine if the survivors and the killers will ever go back or escape the fog. And I often wonder what would happen to her mother. Would she die and Meg would be left alone? Or would she be back waiting for her in the house that she left, ready to give her a hug, understand what she went through? Because I think from the little bit of lore we got on Meg's mother, I feel like she would believe Meg for whatever have happened to her daughter and support her all the way in.
Mhm. Yeah.
I definitely agree with that. And not going and talking about Breath of Life too much. That's something that like I always wanted to explore in my story too, because it's all, well, what happened to her mother, what happened, with the relationship there. And sneak peek, we find out in the next couple chapters, but I think not Breath of Life going from that, but I think, it definitely there's this like part in her tome where her mother's like motivating her and trying to be like, giving her the speech. And then Meg feels like really happy about it and like motivated, but then she gets really upset or, feels really upset because she's like, well, this is the last, pep talk I'm going to get from my mom probably.
Mhm.
And then it's just, it has that double meaning because then she gets taken by the fog. Who knows what her mom, if her mom, dies later, who know, but like that was the last time and it was, oh, very sad.
Yeah, it hits
Exactly.
you right in the heart.
It
Mhm.
does.
Yeah, it's her lore is heart wrenching and more than a lot of people give credit for. I mean, look at Meg. Her mom is her entire life. Like her dad's not in the picture. She's doesn't have any siblings. From her lore, it doesn't even really sound like she has that many like close friends. Maybe she has friends, but not really any that she
Mm-hmm.
gets super close to because she ended up going around with those with her rival and her friends, and that's when they slashed the police tire. So it doesn't even sound like she's
Oh
hanging out with
yeah.
good people. So who does she have when her mother's gone? Absolutely no one.
And
And
it's interesting because
it's sad.
if I remember correctly, that's really, I think Meg is like one of the only survivors where you really get to know her like immediate family or like
Mm-hmm.
her mom too. A lot of the other survivors lores like it's, oh, they
Brushes
have a
over.
friend and they just kind of name drop a friend,
Yeah.
but you don't get to know that relationship that they had with people that they left behind, like that they would have left behind by going to the fog. So it's like you
Hmm.
care about Meg, but then you also like care about her mom too, and it's like I wonder how her mom felt. I wonder how this happened, and because you kind of
Mm-hmm.
get to know her as well a little bit.
Yeah, I agree there. It's funny though, we don't even get a name for Meg's mom. We know so much about the relationship and who they are, but we don't even know the name of Meg's
I notice
mom.
they tend to do that often. They
Yeah.
don't typically name some. I think the only exception is Jake. I think Jake's was his dad got named. I think
I think
I can't remember.
yeah.
Um,
Oh, I think
from the
Dwight's mom got named
and I think
from
this.
like
I
one of
think a
the,
relative of Zarina's relative too. I believe.
yeah, it was like Zarina, I think Yui, Jake, and Dwight. Because then that whole other lore, where like their
Hmm.
families are actually looking for them or wondering what happened to them.
Oh yeah. But that happens so much later, not even in the same bit of lore.
Yeah.
It felt random to me, but maybe they heard us complaining. We want to know their names. Who's their family? Who are they? Tell us now.
They're like, fine, take it.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I guess all in all, Meg's story, although simple in structure, it has a lot of impact in it.
Yeah, it really
Hmm.
does. It really does. The only thing I don't really understand, not that I don't really understand it, but it just felt random was her going off with her group of rivals and slashing the cartel. Like I know the reason why she did it, but it did feel just very random. I don't know if anyone else has something
I
to
think it
say
was kind
about
of to
that.
establish she has a little bit of a rebel side,
Yeah.
or like how in her base
Yeah, I
lore
know it
says she's
does.
kind of
It
gone off
does
the rails.
that.
Um,
Yeah.
so she has a little bit of I guess a mean streak in her, you could say.
Yeah.
I believe it is to show that she is still a young person. She is still a teenager,
Yeah.
but on the other
Mhm.
side, she's taking care of her
Imperfect.
dying mother. She is working constantly. She's trying to keep up the house. So she's technically portrayed as an adult, and that little piece of her slashing those tires is to show that she's not really grown up yet. She's
Yeah.
not there yet.
Yeah, I see that.
You could also argue the act is a little bit of an emotional outlet for her too, because of what she has to do. She has to grow up so early anyway because of her mom.
Mhm.
You could say, some of us teenagers, maybe not us specifically, but our teens out there, maybe who need an outlet, and maybe being mischievous is their outlet. You could say that about Nia, I guess too, but
Yeah.
maybe that's why
Yeah.
they get along so well.
Hmm.
I really do like the idea that it's trying to show this other side of her and you know, show her that she's not perfect because I mean, she won the race against a rival despite all odds, but yet she's still not perfect. Like she's
Hmm.
not a hero. She's not winning every single battle. She still has her flaws, and maybe she even gets that from her mom. Maybe just like it said that she was so similar to her mom. Maybe she also got her little bit of rebellious side from her mom. But yeah, Meg is. I think Meg is a well written character, and we have even covered like the fact that people see a lot of ADHD representation in her. Like, I really like how she's written, and they could even do even more for her, honestly. Not that they need to, because she's already really well done. But if they did more, I feel like they'd
Because
do
she
a
is
good job
perfect
too.
and I love her.
Yeah, she's perfect, and she could do no wrong. Uh, Anything else you guys like to say about Meg?
Other
She's
than that, I
perfect.
love her.
I love her.
Yeah.
Probably not.
Yeah.
Other than that, she's basically like in love with Evan. No.
Her and her soulmate Evan.
Yes. Yes, exactly. Well, moving on from Meg, we've got another character that I think was a lot of thought was put into her lore, but we have Claudette. She feels like they put a lot of thought into her lore. What do you
Yeah,
guys
they
think?
did a good job with her because I think hers is equally fairly simple in premise.
Mhm.
It didn't need to be much more than that. I think it had a lot enough impact in it as well.
Mhm. To me, it felt like they were not just trying to tell Claudette's story, but they were trying to tell a story of someone that I'm sure a lot of
Hmm.
people relate to a lot. And I felt it was just heart. It was just I don't know, definitely relatable, and also something that kind of pulls your heartstrings a little bit. I remember reading it, and I definitely thought like, holy crap! I'm cheering for this. I'm cheering for this little girl. Like I want her to win. I want her to be the victor in this story. So
Yeah.
I I
And
I
there's
think they
this
did a good
like,
job.
oh god.
It's okay.
Oh, I was just gonna say that it's interesting. And I think also really relatable that like I think there's this quote. I saw it on Twitter and I think it's from BoJack, but I'm not gonna say because I don't remember it from there. But it's like you inherit your parents' trauma even though you don't fully understand it. And it's like even Claudette, realizing that her mom was treating her a certain way because her mom went through the same thing. And then her mom not wanting Claudette to go through that, but was causing Claudette all this inner turmoil on top of what she was going through. And I think
Mhm.
that's something people can relate to, and it's something I can relate to. And I think it's just something that they did really well.
Yeah,
In
I
that,
agree.
it's not like they just did an event in Claudette's life. It was just kind of like all around her personality, things that have happened, but you really get a glimpse of who she is or who she was as a person.
Mhm.
Mhm. I think one of my favorite things about it too is that they they did a really good job at allowing Claudette to kind of show these autistic traits, but they don't make it her entire personality.
Mhm.
They make it her obstacle because she doesn't understand it yet. And once she does, and her mom, helps her be aware of how she is quote unquote wired differently, it's something for her not particularly to overcome, but something she can adapt to.
Yes.
And I really like because one of the big things about anything related to any specific mental condition is that oftentimes in media it's often the whole the whole shtick you could say of that person. It
Yeah.
becomes their personality trait, and any sort of condition like that is never a personality trait. It's just part of who they are,
Yeah.
and I think
Mm-hmm.
it's so important and so liberating. I'm sure for a lot of people who identify with her that it's not all she is. She's still this very intelligent, very empathetic, loving, you know, young girl. Um, and they don't they don't enunciate her condition more than they need to for the sake of narration. It's really
Mhm.
nice.
It's and like most important thing you said there. She didn't overcome it, and she actually used it to become a strength almost. Like
Hmm.
she turned her
Mm-hmm.
passions and her quote unquote differences into something that made her successful and became her job. Like she's sharing her interests with all sorts of people all over the world, and that's so important. And I'm so glad they went that direction because it works so well. Like Claudia is just a sweet, sweet girl, and I love her.
Yeah.
Oh, such a cutie. Yeah, I'm so glad they went that direction with her lore because they did it really well. And like you said, it's not too special, nothing too crazy. It's just what it needed to be.
Yes.
They did. Oh my god, the difference between these two characters in Dwight's lore.
We're like praising them, and I'm like, ah, freaking Dwight.
Friggin' Dwight, come here ruining a. Oh my god.
This is what
Poor
I
Dwight.
mean. Where like there's two different lore writers at DVD. I swear to God.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Exactly. Ah, Claudia. I don't even know
Yeah.
like what they could do for her next home. Like I feel like that they've already said all they needed to about her, unless she has some other turning event later in her life that they could cover. But I think they did a really good job of explaining who she is and what her character is
Oh
like.
yeah. And I've
They
I've heard
focus.
seen. Oh, go ahead, Matt.
Sorry. Thank you. I believe they will focus on. Well, they already did her like eighth birthday, was it?
Hmm.
Lore from that
Yes.
part of her life. So I'm guessing they will focus maybe on some difficulties in her adult life or teenage years with a person
Hmm.
with the condition that she has. And maybe how she's like opening like a boutique of sorts with plants or mm, I don't know, maybe getting past her anxiety of sorts
You know, I love
somehow.
to see. I love to see a struggle with relationships because a common trait in autism is not being really adept at romantic relationships or not even showing interest. So I think it would be cool if they would show that struggle or even just make her aromantic or asexual entirely. I mean, not to put any suggestions out here, but I think that would be a really cool topic for a piece of lore. Honestly,
Actually, it
I'd love to
seems
see
like
it.
romantic and asexual people are not shown in media all that much
Yeah.
as other LGBTQ people, so that
Hmm.
would be actually amazing to see.
Mhm. Well, that would be
The
representation.
shippers will cry, but oh well.
Oh my god. Well, let them cry. Let them cry. Well, anything else you guys want to say about Claudette?
I was gonna say Zazoon. I don't remember what. Oh, actually, now I do. Okay. I think I'd seen some people, whether I don't remember if it was on Reddit or the forums or whatnot, and it was a lore-based discussion where they talked about and these are people who were autistic. They said they were happy to know the plot twist that her mother also had this condition, because they said this is how it is. People, with autism, um, if they do have a family and they have kids, they're going to be hard on their kids because they don't want them to function like they do
Mhm.
because of how much of an outcast they can be in society and in social settings. So they thought the fact that it was revealed that her mother also has this was so relatable to these people who identify with Claudette. I thought that was a very interesting thing to read about as someone who doesn't have any sort of condition related to that, but to see other people feel so touched that they added something that, although small, was significant for these people who understand what it's like and have maybe had their parents treat them similarly because they had the same things as their parents. So I thought just a little interesting little tidbit of the lore that I guess struck a lot of people more than you think.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's so important. I'm glad they did that. Shall we move on to the next character then?
Yes, Jake Park. Let's go.
Yes, the last of the four originals. Now, personally, I think Jake's lore was also pretty well done, which means that Dwight is the outcast here. It's
We're
What's
kind of
new?
fourth survivor and we're still bullying him.
yeah, we're gonna be all the way at the last survivor, and gonna be still bullying Dwight.
Still find a way to relate it.
Yeah, exactly.
So I have an interesting kind of take on Jake.
Oh
I
please,
actually don't think he's that good, but I don't think it was the worst by far either. But I think it could have been a lot
better.
better in
I
what it
agree.
was
Yeah.
trying to. I think the structure was a little drawn out, and I think that they could have probably made it a little easier to read. I don't. The grammar was a little strange in this one, but for for the most part, I think his tone was okay, but I do think it's one of the ones that could have been a lot better than it
Mm-hmm.
was.
No, I like his general lore that you can see on his profile, but I felt like his tome could have been something more interesting.
Yeah, I think that the tome kind of retconned a few things of his base lore too, which is a little confusing. Which I think first of all that he was not Korean American, he was born in Korea and then immigrated, and two, I think it changed the age of his brother, which was strange because I think it was hinted that his brother was younger in the base, but he's older in the tome, which is strange.
Yeah,
Um, so there's a little bit of retconning in Jake's lore
they
too
do that a
that
lot.
made his overall story kind of shoddy. Yeah.
When
Yeah,
you look at Jake, you don't think, oh, that's the son of wealthy CEO, like boss or uh, well, yeah, CEO. That's the word. You look at him and you think, oh, that's a homeless person, pretty much. Well, he kind of became one when he ran away. But when I read his lore, and I read that he rebelled against his father and just ran away, that I kind of can't like I can't think of Jake this way. He he doesn't seem like a person who would rebel and run away. I think it's just my opinion for it. I'm kind of weird about him. He seems much more calmer, to be honest.
I never thought of it as rebellion. I thought of it more like he just needed to get out of the situation. He just needed to get out, where
yeah,
um I don't think he was a rebellious. I mean, I dare say he probably was a very well behaved son. It's just the issue is that when push comes to shove, he was living a life he didn't want to live, so he decided he just needed to leave, you know, and that's what he did. He lived his life how he wants to, and he kind of it's a kind of a funny thing. I guess this is more of a little headcanon of mine, but I always thought Jake was the kind of person who's just flat out like, I hate people and I don't want anything to do with people. He's just like the no nonsense kind of guy. So it's probably why he wanted to live out in the woods because he was pressured into so much as a young boy that he's just completely dead with society as a whole. He's just like, don't want to deal with people. I hate people. I'm gonna live up by myself. Kind of
I feel that.
yeah.
kind of a lone wolf, antisocial kind of person. It's kind of the vibe I get from him.
Like lone survival. I think in his general, I think it does call him a lone survivalist. So from that, you could take it like he's a lone wolf. He prefers solitary. He prefers being solitary rather than being near people, and I can relate to
Mm-hmm.
that. Like, but I also think they could have highlighted that more, and I think they could have also explained a little bit better. I mean, they still explained it, but I think they could have done like focus more on why Jake didn't want, to why he wanted a different life. And I know they covered it, obviously, but like, I think they could focus more on that too. But like, I don't know. They could have done a lot of things with Jake, and I feel like they just didn't do them.
Still a chance they will do it.
That is
There's
true.
always a chance. I like how he, after leaving the house, he had to. It's clear that he stayed in the forest for a while, so he had to like learn to survive on his own by himself. So it makes him perfect for the fog. Actually, it's almost creepy how well he fits in the environment.
Yeah. I kind of want to see a tome on him adjusting to being alone in the wild. Like I want to see him learn how to live alone like that. And I also was surprised they didn't mention his connection to animals. Like I mean, literally, he literally has a perk called Calm Spirit, and it talks about his connection to animals. And then they just never mentioned that.
He has a connection to animals, but he gets attacked by an animal in the
Exactly.
tome.
Yeah.
Exactly. I love animals, also the tome. But doesn't mean animals love him. Yeah, they just I feel like he's definitely a work in progress character. I feel like they're definitely still working on writing his story,
Yeah, it seems
honestly.
like there's a lot that's missing from him.
Yeah,
He has a lot of wiggle room for a tome that maybe would give him a little more substance.
exactly. What do you think, Hannah?
Yeah. I I do like how they touched on to like family and they oh he ran away and he wanted to be like his grandfather and all this other stuff. And then, but by the end, he realizes like you don't really know exactly what you have until you don't have it anymore. And then he realizes like he was lucky to have his dad in the way that he did, even though he maybe, he could have been, his father could have been better. His father did make mistakes. He made mistakes, but then realizing there's more than just idolizing one person maybe in your life and that people are all trying. And I think that was a cool realization on his verge of death that he realized, oh, hey, maybe I was a little bit wrong about stuff. But then, realizing that he can fix it and kind of getting that push to get through and be like, yeah, I want to go fix things. I want to survive this and not just kind of
Oh
give it
yeah,
up in the woods.
definitely. His lore is pretty raw, and it does cover some pretty
Mm-hmm.
raw human aspects. So I'm glad it did that. I just want to see more of it.
Hmm. Oh yeah. Because then I want to see more about like him and his personality himself, not so much his like revelations about his family. It's like, no, I want to
Yeah,
know who Jake
I
is.
think feel like we
I
know
want
more
to
about
know
his
Yeah.
more about
family
Jake.
than we do Jake himself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for real. I think that's about all the tome was. I mean, that we got out of the tome was him being bitter about it and then reflecting on it by the end. But we don't really get a whole lot of. We get to see him, like, how do I describe it? Like from a, it, they wrote it like it's a movie almost, like where he's doing one thing but is flashing back, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And structurally, it was kind of odd to read it because that's something you would do that does a lot better in film. So like reading it was kind of, it had some weird pacing for me, and it was hard for me to stay invested with him going back
Yeah.
and
It's a
forth
little jarring.
with it. It's a little jarring, but from a um yeah, from a narrative standpoint, it's like we get a lot of background but not present, you know. And I feel like they could have either put these stories in two separate tomes or just found a better way to merge what they really wanted to do with like this flashback present day thing. And we don't, that's about all we know about Jake is that his bitterness about how things went down and then his reflections on it and then really nothing else about him other than
Yeah.
him just doing things in the present time. That's it.
Oh yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah. And I think going from like Meg and Claudette, where you really see who they are as people, even though there wasn't like a significant event, you can gather really like their personalities a lot more versus Jake, where, oh, well, we knew he was a loner and he's a loner. And then that's
That's it.
about
Yeah.
Yeah, the
that's
difference.
all.
The
Honest,
difference.
he lives in the woods. Oh, really? I couldn't tell.
I had no
I never
idea. Thanks,
guessed.
behavior.
Yeah, I feel
Yeah,
like
here's hoping maybe in a new tome they'll give us a little more about
hopefully.
him as a person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
I feel like Claudette and Meg are their own people, but I feel like they made Jake his family. Like
He's almost
it's
kind of
so
like a
hard they
trope.
were trying to say in Meg and Claudette's
Yeah.
tome. They're not their family. You're not your family. But in Jake's tome, it's like, nope, you're your family.
Hmm.
Like I feel like they were trying to convey that message, but they somehow still ended up saying you're your family just by literally talking about Jake's family and nobody else.
Yeah.
Uh, poor Jake.
But
It's
maybe after, because his whole thing, he's trying to like chase this idea that he wants to be like his grandfather. So like maybe he didn't know who he was as a person, but now in his next tome, we can see him develop into someone.
I would hope
Kind of
I
that's
hope so.
more
I hope
him.
that.
Jake deserves it. Unlike Dwight, Jake deserves it. Just kidding. I'm just kidding, Dwight. I'm just
Yeah,
kidding.
no.
We
I'm
literally
not
complained
kidding.
about
Dwight
Dwight being
doesn't
a
deserve
joke character, and we're just making jokes about him.
And this is behavior's fault.
Yeah,
See,
it
this is what
is.
we're
It
talking
is.
about?
Uh, all right. Does anyone else have anything to say about Mr. Jake?
well, maybe not about Jake, but more so about his father and then grandfather was. I feel like we have sort of a let's call it a pyramid because Jake's grandfather was that survival. Well, not well. He was different than his father. Let's say it, and his father growing up with well, his father Jake's grandfather, he saw the flaws of that lifestyle or how his grandfather was, and he didn't like it. So, having his own children, he tried to change that way. And put depression or on Jake and his brother, which led to a whole circle for Jake wanting to become more like his grandfather.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
It does.
Yeah. I thought like the storytelling was kind of cool. And then like the irony of it all is, like his grandfather disappeared and in the woods and people assumed he died and then that's also what happened to Jake. And
Yeah.
Jake like trying to be like his grandfather and then he pretty much disappears the same way was a little bit sad, I
Mm-hmm.
think.
Oh, a theory. Did his grandfather get taken? Ooh.
That's exactly what I was
Mm.
thinking.
Like Felix
That
there?
Because
oh,
we know
I
that
like
Elodie and
that.
Felix's parents were taken. So maybe
Mm-hmm.
there's an alternate realm somewhere where all the all the survivors' parents
All
were
the
taken
parents.
and they're just
Oh
Oh my
doing their
no.
own
God.
thing.
Oh my
Uh,
god. What if there are like circles or different campfires within the forest that the survivors are in? They can't really cross it, but it's there. There are other people that are suffering the same way. And I bet like our killers can't really tell who is who. They just kill.
mm,
They probably have the matches of different people than what we know about our survivors.
yeah, that's actually a really interesting idea.
Isn't the kind of lore or like the explanation for some of these outfits being so drastically different for people? It's like they're all alternate versions of themselves, I think, right? Or am I
I
I
imagining that?
believe that. I no, I believe that was probably mentioned by
Okay.
one of the devs. I don't remember.
yeah, well, I know
So
there's
I think
also
it's
the
definitely possible.
yeah, I know there's also the alternate universe explanation, but I feel like they can just throw that around whenever they want to explain something that doesn't make sense. Oh, it's just an alternate
Yeah.
universe. Entity doesn't care about universes; it just crosses them, so it's just an alternate universe.
Just
Obviously,
easy.
simply.
It's a god. Come on, she can do
Simple
anything.
explanation. But yeah, I think the conclusion for Jake is that he's got something good started, but he's not finished. They need to do more for him.
Yes, agreed.
Yes.
Shall we
Yeah,
move on
also,
to the next character then?
Yeah.
yeah,
I feel like Scorin is gonna have quite a bit to say about this one.
Nia, my little rebel.
For one, I'm just gonna say I freaking love Nia and her lore. Like, Nia's best girl. Okay, I think they did her amazingly.
So I've seen a lot of criticism that people don't really like her lore, or more specifically her tome. I disagree. I think there's a lot there that people don't really look at in terms of the nuances.
Mhm.
Um, because and not to advertise my own fic here, but in mine, the reason I have Nia Wraith as a pairing is because her lore kind of puts her in this gray area of whether or not she's a good or bad person. And I feel like that's a dilemma she'll have being taken into the fog after what she'd done. And a kind of similar sense as Philip would. They both ended up killing somebody of power who didn't need to be in power, but there's still the
Mhm.
repercussions of, oh God, well, what does that make me? You know, um, but I really liked how it went into the fact that Nia is a rebel, but she's not heartless. In
Mhm.
fact, she's very, very caring.
Mhm.
She cares deeply about the people around her in her city who are dying of disease or, the water not being free, a natural resource that everybody needs. It makes her mad. And she's loudmouth as a person, so she's going to want to do something to make a difference. Um, and granted, the way she goes about it is not what she wanted or expected in terms of the mayor, croaking. Um, but I like how it shows that someone can have this trope of being, quote unquote, the rebel, but there's so much nuance to her character, and you can see that by what she says in her tome and what she does.
Mhm. I'm just a sucker for characters with questionable morality. Like
Hmm.
the question is she good or bad? Like you said, and Nia herself, like you also said, is trying to explore that, and I just love that when running characters. But I think for a lot of people, it makes people, if they just look at her like two dimensional, it makes people think that she's just bad. They don't look at the good parts of her; they just see her as bad. Oh, she killed the mayor, but why did she do it? People never look at that. I
Yeah,
feel like
I
they just
think
watch
that's
the cutscene and then just judge her on that.
oh yeah, you were too lazy to read the lore, just watches the cutscene. I also think that people don't like her lore because of the image she has or had. She was always viewed as that like toxic asshole who will click at you and I don't know, be annoying.
Street
And then
rat.
in the lore we learn that she's actually not really all that. She's caring, she tries to help, she wants to help, but she kinda did it. It doesn't work out the way she wants it to, and it scares her in a way, which is far from the character that the community gave her.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's like I said, much more nuance to her as a person. People actually give her credit for.
Exactly.
Um, and I think probably material that could go on for any future tome with her is the fact that she is a person that is strong-willed, is loudmouth, is a bit of a spitfire, and because of that, she has a hard time kind of being emotional,
Mhm.
handling her emotions and whatnot. Because she cares so deeply about what's going on in her city, um, that it kind of encourages her more irrational, quick-witted behaviors to come out, you know. And I just think it would be interesting for them to go into more about how Nia processes her own emotions, because I have an inkling that she probably doesn't do it very well.
I would agree there. Uh, I just love characters who are rash and do what they believe in without question. And they do. I think they
Hmm.
did it in a really good way. But like you said, yeah, I think they could still explore on her like emotional side a bit more. Not that her lore
Yeah, her inner
is
world,
missing
let's say.
anything in any way, but you know, there's so much potential in Nia still. But not because she's lacking anything in her lore. Her tome's really good.
Right, right. She just
Yeah,
she has a lot of room for even more substance, you could say.
Mhm.
really
Exactly.
glad with the direction they went with her lore. I mean, Tom, because sorry,
It's okay.
because um, like original Tom, all we know is that oh, she was there to tag an old asylum and she disappeared. And I always forget that she was paired with the nurse when she was taken. It's so weird to me, and I'm actually very glad with the expansion she got in her time. Very good.
Mhm. Yeah, I always forget that she's came out with Nurse too. It seems weird to think about. Was she the first ever DLC?
Yes,
Yeah,
the nurse chapter was the very
Oh
first. Was chapter
yeah.
one. Yep.
Wow.
well, a free one, but still first one.
Special girl then. Yeah, I like. I feel like we're not saying a lot, but that's just because there isn't really much. I mean, she's just really good. She's just really great. Lord did a good
She's in a good
job.
place right now,
Yeah, she
and
is.
yeah,
And I'm
They
Exactly.
excited to see what they do.
Yeah, I really hope they don't change anything about her though, or like retcon her in any way, because I think she's
I
perfect as
hope
she
not. I think
is.
she's fine how she is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm. And kind of being in that gray area of like, is she good? Is she bad? I think I don't want them to be like, oh, actually, she's more leaning towards this and like try to do that. Where I think it's really cool. Like
Yeah.
what you were saying earlier, maybe that, you know, she is
Hmm.
struggling with, am I a good person or am I bad? But we all have that. Sometimes we do things that we're like, oh, oh no, maybe not kill a bear, but you know,
Right. Because you could
just things
argue
that
she did
may.
something. She did something for the good of the other people. Because she ended up,
Hmm.
you know, whether accidentally or not, killing this person who was exploiting and causing so much pain and suffering to people who were powerless to stop it.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, she got rid of the main issue of what was happening in the city, but at what cost? Her own morals. So that's something I thought would be
Yeah.
nice to go on about too, whether an atone is the repercussions of what happened, whether or not she thinks it was worth taking a life for the sake of saving so many others. Which it sounds familiar, doesn't it? Exactly why I paired her with a wraith.
I just like the overarching story of how Nia she doesn't like forms of power. I mean, we can see
Mm-hmm.
that. I mean, maybe she considers her parents forms of power, and that's why she goes off on her own. Not that she dislikes her parents, but she wants to do her own thing. And then we got this mayor here who's making all the other people sick, and suddenly she isn't happy about it either.
Yeah. And not to pick on Dwight anymore, but like I can see the similarities between the stories where, okay, this person in power is taking advantage of people that are, don't have that power and trying to do something about it. And I think it works really well with Nia in her story, but then again with Dwight's falls flat. We know that. We
Yeah,
talked
because
about that. But it was interesting
yeah.
seeing kind of the same like themes with someone else, but it really worked for her character and for her lore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because that kind of storytelling fits well with who she is as a person, but not with Dwight.
Yeah.
We're literally just using it as a punching dummy at this point to make comparisons.
I was like, oh my god, do I bring this up or not?
Okay, do it, do
But
it.
it's interesting.
Keep the running joke alive.
Hey, it's
Oh,
Dwight.
don't.
It's Dwight, it's Dwight, no one cares.
Stop.
Dwight. So is that all good for Nia? Best girl. Second best.
I
Yeah.
think so.
Just as
Yeah,
best.
yeah, we're zooming today.
Alright, so skipping Lori because, I mean, if you want to know about her lore, just watch the movie. Anyway. We have Ace. I'm not gonna start this one. I want to see what you guys think of him.
Ace. Interesting. Gonna be honest, I don't remember much about his Tomor, and I read it 3 times.
I would agree there. Maybe that's something bad. Maybe that's saying something about him.
I adore Ace, like, before his tome. Well, not that it changed how I feel about it, but I think his tome fell kind of flat with
Yeah.
who he was. Like, it very much took his stereotypical, gambler, always, trying to be like, I'm the best, I can win this, I can do this. But his whole tome was just him getting beat up, I feel like. That was it. And then he won, and yay! And I
Yeah,
felt
that's
like they
right.
could have explored so much more than just literal just entries upon entries of him getting beat up.
Oh yeah. I feel like
I would have loved to know what brought him to this point in his life.
yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly. I
I
like
feel like that.
sorry, you go.
I feel like his Tom lore is like a reflection of well, his folk situation. He will get hooked, sacrificed, slashed, beaten up, whatever, but he still has that stupid smirk on his face, and well, he's trying to win pretty much. He's trying to keep the spirit up of his teammates. He's kind of like Kate in a way. While she's trying to cheer everyone up, he's doing the same thing in a different way, helping others and all, being stupid.
I feel like Ace just has learned not to really care about the repercussions, or maybe he just never cared about the repercussions of his actions. Like, I mean, in the lore, he gets severely beaten up. I'm not surprised if he had to go to the hospital and was like critically injured for some time. And what did he do it
Yeah.
for? Well, he did it because he's Ace.
Like,
But I like I
pretty
like
much.
I like Ace as a character. He's so fun, and his lore.
Oh yeah, he's an amazing
Yeah,
character in terms of design and just how he's always smiling and trial. It's just
yeah,
hilarious. I love him.
and like you could do so much with his
I just wish we
character.
got to learn more. Yeah.
And his tome
So there,
expanded on that a little bit. But yet, I think we could have just automatically assumed that's who he is. Like, did we really need a tome to tell us exactly what we already thought he was? He's a guy. He's
Yeah.
a
yeah,
gambler who
he's one
does
of
stupid
his
shit
tome is one of
for
the
money
tomes.
and recognition. Like,
Yeah.
we could have just told you that from his general lore and just from looking at that stupid smile.
Yep. Like, I wish that they had another tome kind of expanding on who he is other than that, or like what brought him to that point. And then the
Yeah.
tome would be great as like a second tome, and getting to know like a certain event in his life. But I would have liked to see more, I think.
I feel like there's two different
So here's a quote
categories.
for this lore.
Oh, sorry, go
His
ahead.
heart has always belonged to the cards.
Mm.
From his roots as a poor boy in Argentina, he gambled, scammed, seduced, and smooth talked his way to a life of luxury. Well, I would love to know what he faced as a poor boy in Argentina.
Mhm.
Can I know about his origins?
Give me.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Don't let me see him get beat up for a few chapters. Come on.
Yeah, or even just seeing him rise to, oh, he's a sweet talker. He get like, well, okay, how?
Womanizer.
Like, how did he get to where he is now, I
Yeah.
think they missed out on a lot of opportunities.
Mhm.
I feel like there's two kinds of characters. Characters whose personalities are explained a lot but are lacking on like the history, and then the characters who have a lot of history but are lacking on the character personality.
Yeah,
And Ace is
Yeah.
definitely one
Yeah, I
where
think
he has
his
a lot of
tome.
personality but not so much
Yeah,
backstory.
yeah,
yeah, his tome kind of falls in that category where it doesn't really do much for him.
hmm
Um, yeah,
It tells us what we already pretty much could have assumed. Even though
yep.
it's still a
He
good
thinks.
thing, it's the tome is still a good thing that it shows us what he's like. But did it really need to do that? No, there could have been something
yeah.
else.
Do you guys think that he's smirking in the game because he realized that he got away with the debt?
Hmm.
Because in his lore, it got mentioned that he kinda got too much debt with the wrong kind of people. So when they came to like beat him up or take it or whatever they were planning to do, poof, gone. And then he, he appears in the fog, realizes, well, he's in a shitty situation, but still, he doesn't have to pay away the money. He
Probably
doesn't have to continue the lifestyle he had.
He's like, haha, try to catch me here.
smug little shit.
He gets pulled into the fog.
Oh my.
No, that's very in character.
Oh yeah. And I like all the like on the wiki, and I think I don't even know where this is on the game, but like I think it's what Benedict Baker, like him talking about his little blurbs for all the characters, like, oh, I saw a new person in the fog today, and then Ace, it was like this guy just had a smirk. I don't know what his deal is, but I hope he's okay. I hope his luck doesn't run out. Like I like that, where it's just he's this guy that's like, I'm a little lucky. I'm here.
Like that's why he has
Is
a
stuck
smug.
in the fog and is smiling. Get away, he's great.
Because he's a lucky bastard who just gets away with most of what he gets himself into. He gets himself in a whole bunch of shit, but he just somehow always gets out of it. And I think that's basically what his character is that he gets himself into terrible, sticky situations, and then he always slips out of them somehow, one way or another.
Hmm.
It's kind of funny though.
I love luck-based characters. On the other hand, I feel like Ace and Michaela would kind of bond in a way because she's kind of a witch that makes charms and believes in them. So I bet when she comes to the realm, he would like try to talk to her and make luck charms for him or
Yes.
something.
Oh my
He'd be
gosh.
like, "Hey, how lucky am I today?" And she's like, "I don't know."
Your arm is very lucky.
Yeah, she'd just be like, pat his arm, all reassuring, like, you're always very lucky every single day."
Oh,
It's like I don't know if you guys play Stardew Valley, but like the TV, you get to see like your luck for the day. And it's
Oh
like today is
yeah.
not a good day. Today's a great day.
And then she gets pissed at him for some reason. Terrible luck today. Awful luck.
Terrible luck today, Ace. I swear to God.
Uh, he's got some good joke potential in him, especially in writing, I've got to admit.
It should be the joke, not Dwight. Come on.
But not, it's still not as much of a joke as Dwight. Still.
Ugh.
Ugh, Dwight.
Yeah, I do like his cosmetics though, like Ace,
Yeah.
because he has some like serious ones,
hmm
but then he also has a lot of jokey ones too. And
He
I
has the
think that's
tux, and then he has the tiger
he has
tux.
the tux.
He can be an
I
icon.
love his like open, like this button-up shirts where it's like half open, it's like a tiger or it's like leopard print.
Yeah.
I love it.
The flamingo shirt.
What a fashionable guy. Oh my God.
He is. He really is.
He is trying to look rich. He's trying to look fancy.
Yeah.
He's trying his best.
Yeah. Ace is a good character. I think they did a good job with him. He's memorable.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I think he's memorable like in his own right. And so as we were saying, we said this before, but I think, he's so memorable that it would be nice to know a little bit more about him versus just expanding on that. Oh, well, he's memorable, so we don't really need to put a lot of effort into his tome type of
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. Anything
But
else
we'll
you guys
see.
want to say? No? Shall we move on then? Skipping past
Or
Bill, then, we go on to Fang, and unfortunately, she does not have a tome yet, so we only have her general lore and the little tiny tidbits we get from whatever to go off of on, but we'll try our best.
I always thought it was wild that their most profitable survivor has yet to have a tome
Exactly,
for whatever
right?
reason.
Like, the only thing I can assume is that they're working up a storm trying to get, like, the best freaking tome in the world. And that's why I haven't released it yet, is they're just trying to make it the best. But she should have gotten one a long time ago, I'm gonna be honest. Like,
Kind of like thing.
yeah, like, she's
I
interesting.
actually hate her. I'm sorry.
I feel like maybe they just don't know how to write like lore for her that like justifies. I don't know. This is gonna sound weird, but I think like they see Fang and they've made all these like really cute cosmetics for her, and she is kind of turned into this like version of like, oh, gamer girl, she plays video games type of, oh, cutesy person, but like her lore that we know is almost the complete opposite of that. Like she
Oh
is
yeah, it's
almost
actually
like,
kind of dark.
Yeah.
yeah, and
It
like she's
is.
determined. She ruined a lot of her, she went down this really dark hole, trying to be the best in something and wanting to beat people and not really caring about anyone else or herself along the way. And then when she lost that, she went into this whole other downward spiral. And I feel like looking at her cosmetics and like who people assume she is now is way different than what her lore is. And so I wonder like if when we do get a tome, how they're gonna connect, or if they do, if they end up kind of connecting that, or
Yeah, it'll be
what
really
they're gonna
interesting.
expand on.
Yeah.
Because like
So
in
weird.
reality, oh, go ahead, Maya.
It's so weird that when you look at her, you don't exactly think, oh, alcoholic. That's all I
Mhm.
wanted to say.
Like depressed, determined, alcoholic.
Yes.
Yeah. It's
She's so tiny too. It's oh my god.
yeah. Kind of like that though. How she doesn't look anything like. After you read her tome, she doesn't look like anything you'd expect her to look like.
Mhm.
Like she still looks conky and cocky and confident. Yeah, you wouldn't assume someone who's in that much of a downward spiral would still be that way. But I think in the lore, it was kind of hinted at that despite being the realms being really crappy, she's seeing the entity taking her as an opportunity to win, to gain control of her victories
Mhm.
again, and just achieve great things. Which is kind of sad because she shouldn't be happy about being taken. But I think she's
Yeah,
just
isn't she
using it
like
as
the
an
only
escape from her
person?
still spiral.
Yeah, wasn't she the only like survivor that to be happy that she was in the realm? It's so freaked up.
You could argue Elodie, she was glad to be taken out because she was about to die.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, but
But like, what's the
Elodie
worst
is
fate,
kind of a have a different reason for that. Fang just wants to be the best, so he was like, "Oh, I'm still alive, thank God."
Yunjin too, yeah. But I think Fang just she was just stuck in a spiral, right? And she was going nowhere. She felt as if she was going nowhere. And then this is an
Mm-hmm.
opportunity to go somewhere. Maybe not a good place, but at least a different place. Soon. Sometime in the next couple of years.
Hopefully.
Well,
how many
I
like
wonder if they're.
sorry.
I was say, I wonder if they're gonna actually go, like balls deep into the whole, state that she's in, or if they're gonna kind of retcon or go back and introduce her as kind of a cutesy character. Because I
No,
mean,
no, 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 no. If they do that after
from a,
all this time, I'm
I
gonna be
know that would be so
Right,
pissed.
sad.
I'm gonna
'Cause,
be so mad.
I want them to go dark. I want them to go super dark and horrible and tragic. I
yeah, I
want
want
them
to
to do that.
see.
I don't want
Yeah,
them to be like, ooh woo, bunny girl. Please don't do that behavior, please. Make her lore twisted and dark.
Right? Like they
and
have
it's a
this opportunity
girl.
to make something really like gritty. That's not just Ace getting beat up for 5 things, but
5 minutes.
I think this, can explore, really severe, mental illness and
Mm-hmm.
addiction, and,
Oh
you
yeah,
know,
addiction definitely.
Pressure.
It's a huge thing.
yeah.
Because in game she's so cute, cute little Chinese gamer girl. But no, this girl's severely depressed. She has problems.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Probably swears
And
like a
she has
sailor.
personality. She has major personality flaws too. And I think that's a lot of information to go off of. Oh, well, it's a lot of um, it's a lot of compelling things to go into and more depth in terms of her tone. So I have to hope that they'll see what they've started off with and go with it and not
Mm-hmm.
change it.
Expand upon it, not change it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I like Fang, even though I think she kind of gets a little bit overrated sometimes. Like
Let's be honest, come on.
they just look at her as a little girl with the bunny ears and they don't even care about her lore. I bet half the people who play her don't even know what her lore is.
No, yeah,
All the Fang
it's
mains are
just
just
a
like, what's her
fun,
lore?
cutesy
She's a gamer? She's a
She's a
cosplayer?
gamer girl. Yeah.
No, no,
cute
she's an
gaming
alcoholic.
girl.
What?
Did you know she was depressed?
Did you
Did you
know?
know she's an
Did you
alcoholic?
did you
You know
know
she
she's
wakes
actually
up in the
really,
street all
really,
the time?
really
Like,
mentally ill? Hmm?
Yeah.
Do
Like
you
she
know
was
that?
taken because she blacked out and then
Yeah,
disappeared. Like,
everyone cursed for her at this point when she disappeared, probably.
Oh yeah. Poor Fang. She deserves a tome.
Yeah.
Go
oh,
get
I
my
need to
girl
look
a
at
tome.
fan fiction that I have. Not to just suddenly go into fanfic right now, but there is a story that I have. I think I mentioned it a number of times, but it's Dark Noise by Ray Katz, and she did such a phenomenal job going into a character study on Fang and how she functions in her inner world and just kind of goes off of her lore. And I thought that's a really good like I would love if the game developers would go off of kind of what she did in terms of not shying away from what Fang has in terms of flaws in her internal condition
Mm-hmm.
and just running with it and making her feel real and relatable and not just the cute gamer girl.
Yeah.
But I'll link it at some point. But yeah, that's something I wanted to mention.
Mm-hmm.
Since we're on the topic of fan fiction, Hannah, it is totally your fault that I don't like Fang
oh,
and your
oh,
fan fiction.
oh no.
Oh no.
Like, and
The betrayal was hard.
betrayal. But see, it's been interesting to explore, the whole where she was the only survivor that really, like saw opportunity in the trials and being in the entities realm and being like, well, I don't have anything left for me, or she thinks, I don't have anything left for me out in the real world. I want to go back because there it was an actual, you know, it was a game, it was a trial. Like there are things that I can do, and now that we know what we know, I can go in and be even better. And I think it's been really interesting to explore that and kind of then the other survivors being like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Like, what is wrong with you?
That
But
is really
Yeah, I
interesting.
think it
yeah.
became an addiction of itself. Like she started getting addicted to the fog because she could win. She could do better than what she has.
Mm-hmm.
She was winning again all of a
I
sudden.
think that's such a potent part of her personality too, is that she has an addictive personality. She
Mm-hmm.
gets invested in something, she just becomes completely enthralled and addicted to it. She's so susceptible to that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's something for them to explore. I mean,
Yeah.
imagine if they did actually get released from the fog one day. What would they do if she wanted to go back? I've never thought of that like that. Thanks for that, guys.
Yeah, because realistically, she doesn't have anything waiting for her on the other side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She turned her back on everything, really.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's also really that would be a cool thing to explore. I don't know how they would do that, but just like when you're at your lowest point, how you think maybe there isn't anything left, and like kind of that juxtaposition of relatable things that people may feel, but how you could work yourself back up to like having a life you like. But I don't think Fang would see it like that, I guess.
Yeah.
She's just like, now I want to go back. I was actually doing something back there, and like I want to be better. I want to keep doing that. I want to be the best I can be. I want to be able to do this.
So, anything else you guys want to say
Impressive
about
so
Fang?
fast.
Just some last minute comments. She has a lot going for her. She has a lot of potential to be something very, very deep and
Mm-hmm.
impactful to people. So we'll see what they do with her in the time.
Please don't mess her up.
I know.
All right. So I guess we go into the
Yeah,
next character who has made a very big change to the Dead by Daylight lore, and that's David. And of course, that change is
Mr.
his
King.
LGBTQ announcement, which made half of the community angry and half of the community enthralled.
Oh yes, the Reddit was a mess during that time. Let me tell you.
Oh God, I couldn't even stand to be on Twitter.
too.
But I mean, they did a good job. I'm so glad they did it. Thank
Oh yeah.
God. Do it again.
Do it again.
I mean, I wasn't surprised when they announced that they're doing an LGBTQ character and then it turned out to be David. I really was not surprised, honestly.
I was so scared it won't be David.
I think,
I was like sitting in my seat, just be David,
yeah,
please.
I think it's a
I
good
remember a lot of
thing.
people were speculating it would have been Yui, which is
Oh,
interesting.
yeah. Yeah, I saw that a little bit. But I'm glad that they did because you have been easy. I mean, she's a feminist. Her group is all full of girls. It would have been so easy to make her gay. But I'm glad they made it David because a lot of people see David as like a very masculine character. And what is one of the stereotypes of gay men? That they're more feminine. But David is as masculine as you can get, and yet he's still gay. So I think that was a good decision on their part. What do you guys think?
Question is if he is that masculine because it's his personality, it's how he sees himself, or is it the pressure he got from society that he thought if how masculine can I get to hide this?
Mm-hmm. And maybe, but at the same time, like to do something like that, you have to at least be like confident in your own strength, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah.
obviously David
Yeah.
knew that he had to protect his friends, and he knew that he had a way to do it. Because someone who wasn't confident that they'd be able to protect their friends probably wouldn't even try. But David knew that he was strong, and it wasn't. I can't even remember because it's been a while. But wasn't it stated in the lore that the reason David did start like growing stronger was because he wanted to stick up for his friends, or was he just
Oh
always
gosh, I can't
strong?
recall right
Because in his
now,
I
but
tome
don't
lore, he didn't seem
remember.
strong. I mean, the bullies were literally throwing him around and landing punches on him that he couldn't even, get, and he couldn't even land a hit on them. So, I mean, I could definitely see David purposely getting himself stronger so he can protect his friends.
oh, excuse me. Sorry, I
Yeah,
sneezed.
I can see that. Bless you.
Bless.
Thank you.
Yeah, a lot of things about David like seem very authentic, and I like how he, even though the first official LGBT um character, it's not who, as I was kind of saying before, it's not just his tone wasn't, oh, his, he's gay, he's gay, guys, he's gay. It just seemed very natural and like him, being upset because this didn't work out with the person that he realizes he's like truly in love with, and that it was a friend of his since childhood, and then I kind of like how they dated on and off, and it just seemed very natural,
Mhm.
which was really awesome. But it was just good
But
representation to see versus
mm,
just, oh, his journey to realize he's gay. I was like, no, it was just his journey to realize he's in love with this person.
Mhm. Exactly.
Yeah, that's a beautiful take on it. Because to figure out that you're, let's call him an outcast, to be respectful, uh, is typical. It's like you can make a character that is on a journey to realize, oh, I'm gay. Like there are so many good shows and books and whatever Heartstopper. Like the character realizes that he is different and it's new, it's incredible, it's I'm not alone or something. No, with David it was so much different because he already knew from the very start that he was different. He felt different, and as Hannah said, it was beautiful. It was a beautiful story of how he realized that his heart belonged to this one person. Sorry.
All good.
Yeah, it was. I loved it. And then, oh my gosh, the whole him being dramatic, buying a plane
oh
ticket to go,
yes.
swoop in and
Ugh.
then doubting himself. And then it was cute seeing him doubt himself too, because his whole, tome and his lore is he's this confident, you know, burly man that can do anything he wants. But then he doubts himself and then he looks beyond himself and he's like, well, no, this person, I forgot his name, his person's name, but like, oh, he saw him happy and he's like, I just want him to be happy. His happiness is more important than mine. But then, so he starts to walk away and he goes, fuck that. I want to be happy and I want him. And then goes back and then like tries to, tell him he loves him and get him back. And I thought that was really cute to see the kind of the self-doubt and that this person who's normally super confident can doubt himself sometimes too. And it made him seem a little bit more human as well.
Mhm. I agree entirely. Like when I was reading David's lore, it read like almost like a romance novel to me at the end part. But I wasn't even
Yeah.
It
mad.
kind
Like
of
it
did.
worked
I
so
loved it.
well, and it made you it pulled on my heartstrings quite a bit. Like I heard some people going like, "I was crying, I was crying,"
Me.
and like it was just so sweet and
Maya
genuine.
over here crying.
I think David's tone was actually really well done. Like his second one, and even his first one, but especially his second one. Like yeah, and actually, I think his first and second complement each other pretty well. Like you said, like his first one, we learn that he's a super masculine, tough guy, but then the second one, he's exploring his emotions more and hesitating and being all cute and
Mhm.
nervous. So I'm glad. I'm
And
glad
that you can
they
be
gave him a
both.
second.
Like super
Yes.
masculine guy, but also recognize your emotions and feel these things. And it's not like you have to be one or the other, or that it makes you less of a, like, quote unquote, less of a man if you feel this. Like, no, we are all human. And I think, it's really cool exploring just humanity
Mhm.
and that
Exactly.
emotions are normal.
Yeah. The main story point: more emotions are normal. Don't be
That's why I play
afraid.
Dead by Daylight. That's what I want to be validated with. Emotions are good.
uh. Yeah, I'm glad the direction they're taking him. And if they even give him, they probably won't for a while because now this is the second tome. But if they do give him a second tome, I hope they explore more on like that emotional part of him. Not that I don't like the masculine fighty part, but like I
Yeah.
want to learn more about his friends. I want to learn more about things he's had to do to protect them, and see more of David.
Me too. I love the part where he was like laying down in the rain, or or outside just, and his barman, which was also his friend, just came up to him and started talking to him. It was such a vulnerable spot to put Dave in it.
Mm-hmm.
It's gorgeous to read.
It
I
was.
loved
It
reading
really
more of that.
was. God, I was waiting so long to read it, and then I was like, oh, this was so worth reading it.
Yeah.
It's so good. Oh my god. I'm not
And I
gonna clap,
remember,
but clap, clap, clap behavior. Good job.
good job, behavior.
Good job. Well,
Yeah, I
they
remember
worked
one of
with
the
people,
main,
so
oh, what was that?
they worked with people to write it, so I'm
Oh,
glad
yeah.
they did that too.
Mhm.
Yeah, I remember one of the main weird gripes that I would see on Twitter all the time is like, well, I play David because I'm a man and I'm masculine. And I'm like, but now they're
Bro.
like, I can't play him anymore. And I think it's just kind of silly. And I like that behavior ignores all that. And like, as I said, made this person where he's still a very masculine man who is very hot-headed, is
Yeah,
very, rash and rushes into
his
things
physique
and
and his character didn't change. What is the problem?
Yeah.
yeah,
He's still a man. He just has
he's
emotions.
still a man.
You saying men can't
He,
have emotions? You
which
don't you have emotions?
emotions are normal.
Exactly.
Oh, I saw another dumb argument too, where they're saying they're trying to make excuses that he had a girlfriend, which I mean,
Yeah.
if I would imagine multiple people in the LGBT community have probably dated straight before they
Mhm.
realized what they prefer in life.
Mhm.
So
Mhm. Well, just a
that's part of their
societal
journey
pressure,
to
right?
discovering themselves.
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
I'm a romantic, right? But I almost dated this guy once because I felt I had to. Like no one was telling me I had to,
Mm-hmm.
but I felt like I was obligated to. And then I realized that I didn't want to, so I didn't. And now I'm happy. Like it's
Yeah.
the same case there. Like maybe he did
Dang.
actually like this girl, and that's why he dated for a while because he wanted to make her happy. But that doesn't mean necessarily that that's his orientation or that's who's preferred gender. Maybe he still loved her, but maybe just not in the way that he would have loved that other guy, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Wait, also because he was trying to hide that side of him. Again, he
Yeah.
was dating that girl to make a profile for himself, for others to think, oh, this dude has chicks, and I don't know.
Probably. That could be it too. Like how you're more manly when you have a woman at your side.
Yeah.
Look at this tough guy. He has a hot girlfriend.
Especially since he was in the public light too, I think it kind of briefly mentioned in his lore that like his family was like, you need to be this type of certain picture for us and our family and wanting to fit into a certain mold. And so then he didn't want to introduce his or boyfriend at the time to his family because of that. And I think, yeah. So who
Mhm.
knows?
Yeah, but David's a really good character. Like I'm glad where they took him. I'm glad what they did with him. His story is heartwarming. It's just beautiful. And any future stories that they do for him, I feel like have a lot like a high expectation. But yeah, I still think they'll be able to meet it because they did a lot of leave a room and a lot of material to build up on. So
Yeah.
Keep it
good
up,
job.
behavior. Woo!
Good job. You did it. You made a good
Yeah,
character.
behavior.
You made a good, believable, non-joke character. Like
So
Dwight.
speaking of Dwight, how do we feel about David and Dwight as a pairing?
I don't personally ship it, but
Where
since
they're
behavior
knowing their
seems to
lore.
ship it, then I'm all for it.
Yeah, I
It's
don't
like
have any immediate reactions to it, but I mean, I can see it being a thing.
the community, like half of the community ships it. So I mean, if they see potential,
Hey,
I
good
just
on
I just
them.
can't take
Yeah.
Dwight seriously. Maybe I've really made Dwight more serious, but I just can't picture as anything
That's
else
fair.
than like a freaking failure.
Oh,
I'm just kidding, Dwight. I'm just
Fine.
kidding. But I still can't take him
but no, I
seriously.
feel
Like, look at this, David, beautifully written, gorgeous character, and then there's Dwight.
And then there's Dwight.
Oh, poor Dwight. Well, any other comments about David and not Dwight?
I don't think so. I think David's in a really good place right now. I actually think he would be just fine not having anything else added to him. He's got a really good arc going on.
I agree.
And if they do decide to add anything more, I hope it would stay within what it's already been written about him and not anything too wild, you know.
Agreed entirely. All right, then we shall move on to the songbird herself, Miss Kate Denson, who has yet to release her
My
albums, and
girl.
that is a pity. Come on, show us your music, girl.
I know. I've always wanted to know what her perks sound like her songs. But yeah, Kate's my girl. I love her. She's my main. Pete 30.
So you're not biased.
Wow. Yep. Definitely not biased. But here's the thing, though. I think there's so much more that could be done with her. I really hope
Exactly.
they give her more because
I
right now
agree.
she doesn't have enough on her.
Yeah. Does she have a tome? She does have a tome, right?
She does have a tome. It's
Yeah.
very. I think it's kind of short though. It's really just
I
her
think
first interaction with the entity.
Yeah, she found it in a cave, didn't she?
She almost escaped it, too.
And she escaped.
Oh, she did.
Yeah.
Which from a lore perspective gives a lot of implications about her. I
Oh,
think
yeah, right, she did.
there is a canon confirmation I think somewhere in her lore, I don't remember where she actually has sort of spirit sense. She kind of gets a little tingly feeling for something that's going wrong, um, or she can kind of sense the entity in a way. I believe that's in her tome, but I can't remember. It's like it's either a random Arcus archive or it's part of her tome. I don't remember which. So that is interesting. She's DBD's version of the final girl.
Yeah.
Like she's their original final
I
girl.
agree.
And I actually think that's not a bad thing. I think that fits her quite well.
Mm-hmm.
She is a person who we can tell right off the bat is very like incredibly loving, very musical, very much a social butterfly. She brings light wherever she goes. In the darkness of the realm, she is that light. You could say at the campfire, she is the flower in the dark.
Yeah,
So there's a lot of stuff they can do with her from a lore standpoint.
Oh,
She
yeah.
probably has more power than we realize, just because she has a sense of just otherworldly sense, um, from her lore. But she's probably one of my favorite iterations of a final girl because she's not exactly like Lori or Sydney or you know any of the final girls we know. She's kind of a unique take on it, um, and I like it. She's not really particularly cliche. She is a country girl. She kind of falls into the cowgirl, country girl kind of stereotype, but not in a way that makes her unlikable or predictable. She's very um, she's kind of relatable in the sense that she feels so much for her community.
Mm-hmm.
I know not many people who play DBD would probably be a celebrity like her, but I think there is a lot you can, feel when you love the people around you very much and you to go back to where you came from if you have very good relationship with your community. And she it tells a lot about her when she goes back. She's so famous. She's probably incredibly wealthy. She's successful, but she's also so humble. So she goes back to where she came from to sing for her people, and goes across country, even though that might not even be financially, the way to go in life. She does whatever she feels she needs to do to bring happiness to people around her, and she it makes her somebody who is unique in the realm so far, where she's kind of like Claudette, but she's more outgoing, more outwardly loving, and there's a lot they can do with her. I hope in another tome we get to see a little more about what it is she's capable of, whether in the realm or outside the realm, um, in terms of being this light, the sunshine kind of way.
I agree there. I feel like
In her tome, I just said that whenever she played a song for her parents, it made them them smile, and that's what she wanted to do too for the rest of her. She really is that ray of sunshine everywhere she goes.
Hmm. That's a good thing, though. I feel like when they were writing her lore, they kind of took a safe approach. I don't, not that safe is a bad thing, but I feel like they kind of took a safe approach with her. And even though just personally, I don't feel she's too impeccable, like anything special, like too special. Even though I really do like the idea of her having some sort of supernatural, almost third, sixth sense, or even some sort of connection to the entity. In her trailer, which I don't know how canon the trailers are, probably not that canon, but um, she's playing her guitar and it's the Dead by Daylight theme. And I don't know, I don't know about the lore implications for that, but it seems that seems really special to me, and it seems like almost maybe she has a connection to the entity somehow, or the entity's realm, or even like I said, like a sixth sense that she's hearing this theme in her mind without actually hearing it. And I kind of
Hmm.
want them to explore that. Like, I get that she's kind hearted and talented and wants to spread her joy to everyone she meets. But I want to explore more of that because I think that would make her different from any other final girl. Is that
Yeah, I mean that's a
she
good
has
point
this
because
connection.
I actually think her base lore is about as perfect as it needs to be. It gives us insight of how she was when she was young and how she was as an adult and growing up. We already know. I think the her base lore does more than enough to give us substance on her as a person. So I think her tomes, like you said, should probably focus more on her supernatural sense and her connection to the entity because she's one of those characters where kind of like Ace, she already has a good enough base character tied to her that she doesn't
Hmm.
need a whole lot in tomes for her backstory. Instead, it would be very interesting to go into um, her capabilities and how she can apply herself in terms of her extra sense or like her connection to the entity.
Hmm.
Because I believe Kate's because she has kind of a long lore. I think she's one of the first starter characters that come out with a considerably longer lore. I think she was the first one who had like a longer page of lore. So she was kind of the start of base lores becoming more um, like more having more substance to
Fleshed
them
out.
and not being as vague. Yeah. So they already established her pretty well in her base. Um, so here's hoping, like her tome I think was good. It wasn't anything special, but it did give a lot of implications of what's more to come for Kate.
Hmm. I agree, though. She definitely is your final girl,
Yeah.
and
I mean,
I think,
aesthetically, she's my
yeah.
girl. I love her outfits in the game. She's my girl. But
Hmm.
but I do think she needs more.
Hmm. Kind of reminds me of Dwight a little bit.
Kind of, but she's way more likable than
Yeah,
Dwight.
she's way more likable, and they don't. She's not a joke, most importantly,
Yeah.
and her lore actually makes sense. So,
Yes.
anything else you guys want to say?
No, I think we're
I do.
good. Oh, just kidding.
Wasn't it stated in her lore that like when she went to the woods, the theme song for the entity was stuck in her head for so long until she saw the light of the
Yeah,
I
entity?
think
that is a
so. And
good
she was
point.
like, it was like driving her crazy because she's like, no matter how she wanted to like write another song, she could only like play the entities thing or like the haunting
Hmm.
melody in her head or however they described it. But
Mhm.
it was
I heard
I
some
love how they
theories
connect.
that um, there were some theories floating around which I thought were interesting that because of that last bit of her lore with the entity getting in her head, that he might have been trying to groom her as a killer instead,
I like that.
Mm.
On a
which
similar
was an
note,
interesting premise.
I kind of
Kind of
have a
like a siren
theory.
or something.
Yeah, I kind of have a theory
Yeah.
that it's kind of similar to that, but instead of her being killer, like she was hearing basically the entity had already chosen her a long time ago, and she was and
Hmm.
it's not really groomed, kind of similar to being groomed, but she was being called, so she was hearing that call, but instead of being a killer, she was just being taken. She was just trying to be taken to to be in the entity's realm, which is maybe why she started. losing inspiration, is that the entity was purposely trying to create that turmoil inside of her because that's what it wants to do, right?
Mm.
It feeds off the survivor's negative emotions. So if she's in turmoil, then she'll become even more of a juicy victim for its realm, which I kind of like.
And I think it's interesting too. I think she's the only survivor, except for maybe Michaela, who had a kind of precursor feeling of the entity being with her.
Mm-hmm.
So it begs the question, was she meant to be able to know? Like, was she supposed to be able to feel that? Or is it just because of her sixth sense, her special spirit sense she has, that she was able to feel her ending coming way before?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Kind
See,
of an
that's
interesting thing from a lore
yeah, that's what
perspective.
makes her interesting. I kind of hope they explore on that.
She could kind of sense her end time's coming before she even realized it.
Mm-hmm.
Unlike a
Yeah,
lot of survivors where they don't know until the fog comes.
Mm-hmm.
it's shown even in the I can't talk today. Sorry.
Okay.
It's
It's
shown
okay.
it's shown in the teaser that when the clown lurks behind the tree and stares at her as she plays her melody, she suddenly like stops and looks at him. Like she knew he was there. She
I think
felt
he
the
did break a bottle.
I think so. Yeah.
I think
she
a bottle did break, I
Yeah.
believe.
didn't I don't really remember the last time I watched the teasers, but that would be cool
Long
if
time.
it wasn't just a bottle.
I mean, yeah. We don't even know how canon the trailers are anyway. I don't. They haven't
I
said
know.
anything, do
Yeah,
they?
it is an interesting premise. So maybe if they want to elaborate on her, they would kind of focus on how she kind of would come to be aware that she has a spirit sense, or
Mm-hmm.
how she can, either utilize it or kind of experiment with it, whether that's going out in the woods or whatnot, or I don't know. See what they do with her maybe in the future, and hopefully, as we all know with everybody else, don't mess her up.
Yeah.
God, please.
All right. Should we move on to the next character? Yep.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. We'll go on to Adam Francis then, who I personally really
Adam.
like.
Yes, I recently reread his lore too. Um, a very personable guy,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't have a lot to say right now because he doesn't have a tome, so we can only go off of his base. But he comes across as um, a very soft-spoken but very intelligent guy. He
Mm-hmm.
overcame the hardships of where he grew up and made himself um, into. I would say I think he was successful. I don't think he had anything going on in Japan. He was just living his life, adapting to the culture, which already clues him to us that he's very, very smart and very determined person because he learned a
Mm-hmm.
whole new language in a whole new country with a whole new culture compared to where he came from. It's so wholly different from where he grew up,
Exactly.
which begs the question, which I think I've said this in the Discord before, where I've discussed it, where um, because his dad, now it says his dad, but I would assume maybe his parents both passed away because he was raised by his uncle. Um, so we can assume he didn't have his parents. He lost them both when he was really young. So he grew up with his uncle. And I always wondered why specifically Japan, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, from Jamaica to Japan, that's it's a very jarring transition. And he made it work. But then I also have to wonder, like I theorized in the Discord not too long ago, where is maybe it hurts him too much to be too much involved with his own culture because he lost his parents, where he felt compelled to just completely leave everything that he is and become something else entirely and just be so invested in something else that's completely different from himself, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like he was so invested in learning the Japanese culture that it hurt him too much to bother with his own, you know?
Oh yeah.
It's kind of an
I never
interesting
thought about
thing
it
I
like
think
that.
they could explore. Yeah, like something they could explore maybe in the tome that they give him, where
I'd love to see
you
that.
know he, he doesn't he it hurts him, to want to learn about and be involved in Jamaican culture, his own culture, because it reminds him too much of what he lost. So that's why he kind of dove headfirst into this program that got him to Japan and he became a successful teacher in Japan.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of what I always assumed, maybe, because it was so strange to me that he made such a drastic transition. Without, I would imagine there has to be a significant reason why someone would want to do something like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's
And
interesting.
yeah, he has a lot of his base lore is very. It tells us enough about him where we're intrigued by him.
Yeah.
Also, so interesting thing I noticed. Someone pointed this out not too long ago. I believe in either the forums or the Reddit in terms of lore discussion, where Adam he has a lot of references to like Christianity.
Really?
His perks and deliverance, autodidact. I think autodidact it was dissected, and I think didact was like something of like off of the Bible or something. I don't remember. And then of course deliverance is also very holy, and it's
Mm.
the word. And he wears like he wears white trench coat coming into the fog, and he's just generally somebody who um he cares for others. And it's interesting. I have to look. I have to find it at some point. But there is a lot of really interesting and compelling arguments someone made about how he almost resembles Jesus in a strange way. And there's a little bit of a tangent that people went on where maybe Adam is the key to whatever might be going on in the realm. Um, because of that, he has a lot of symbolism behind him.
Interesting. Especially even in his lore, like when the train crashed, and then his first
Yeah.
instinct was to protect someone from like this door flying at her, and he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna protect her, so it hits me instead." Like, he just sacrifices himself
Mm-hmm.
without even thinking about it for someone else. Just a random like stranger on the train. So that's interesting.
Yeah, it is. Oh, I also saw some theories that he actually saved Rin.
Oh.
Oh.
That the Japanese girl he saved on the train was actually
Oh
Rin.
my God. Oh, that would be a crazy like connection.
Yeah, but as we know later, she would go on to become a killer anyway.
Oh.
Yeah, that was an interesting theory I saw.
Yeah.
I
A
haven't really
little
thought of
sneak.
that.
I like the little sneak peek that Adam was on a Jiwoon's concert with his students.
Oh yeah, that too. He brought them to a K concert.
They
That's so funny.
lived in the same era.
Hilarious.
Awesome.
He sounds like he sounds like he was a really good teacher. Like really involved with the kids and stuff. Very selfless, because of course he threw himself from the train. Cares a lot about his kids. He'd probably make a good um, parent. Like maybe he'd want a family one day. I don't know. There's so many things we don't know about him that he really just needs a tome to explain.
Yeah, because he has a lot of good foundations on his
Mm-hmm.
lore right now. It would be really good for them to go into, like what I said, maybe they go into detail on why it is he chose the Japanese culture specifically. Maybe because it was so drastically different and he needed something different. He didn't want to, you know, he had so much pain going on in his homeland, which is
Mm-hmm.
interesting.
What you
There's a
mentioned
lot. There's a
the
lot they can do with him.
sorry, you mentioned the religion, right? One
Hmm.
thing I could possibly imagine them going for is that when he was growing up with his uncle was a highly religious household, and Christianity kind of has a
Oh,
grip on many different
interesting.
parts of the
Yeah.
world, and so maybe when we're exploring that on his relationship with his uncle and his childhood there, maybe that's where the religious stuff comes from, and we can kind of explore into that from him going from that to suddenly a very different and completely culture with their own religion. I can imagine that that would be something that they would could explore or have a bit of conflict, internal
Yeah.
conflict in him.
Yeah. There's so much they could do with him.
Oh yeah,
Kind of excited to see whenever he
yeah.
would get his own
Honestly,
tome. They do. It could go either way. It could go into his life in Japan adjusting, or it could be when he was young, maybe a better explanation on why he went there.
mhm.
So there's a lot of things he can do with him.
Yeah, I
But for right
definitely.
now, he just needs more. But he's also he's in a good place where he is too.
Mhm.
He doesn't feel like completely unfinished. He has enough on him that we can kind of grasp who he is as a person. Um, just maybe not his motivations yet.
Anything else then? We can't really say too much when he doesn't have a tome yet.
Yeah.
I know, yeah, he's missing a lot.
The only thing we haven't done is mention Dwight, which is a crime.
So, anyways, Dwight.
Excited for a new tome, just like I am excited for Dwight's new tome, so they can actually do him justice.
Yeah.
All right, how about we move on to Jeff then? I'll begin because I'm biased, because he's Canadian and I'm also Canadian. But I don't know, something feels almost homely, very warm about Jeff's lore. Like, you look at him, he's this big, tough guy. He looks like he could beat you and your entire family up. But his lore is just paints him as a really, really good guy. And I don't know, it's almost soft. That's not really a good descriptive word, but it's not really a way to describe lore, but it's just so soft and warm. And everything about it is just, oh, it's sad, but also heartwarming and, but I still feel like they could do more for him. I feel like, I feel like they could, you know, do more.
Oh yeah.
I mean, he's a quiet artist. He's just like me, impossible. I really
Yeah.
want to know what happened to his eye because I don't remember if it was said in his lore. He has a scar, nasty scar over his left brow and under his eye,
It was,
and he looks so
he
intimidating with it.
does. I,
He's so scary, and he clearly likes rock and he's
And
big
heavy
with
metal, yeah.
yeah.
yeah, so that.
Yeah, I can
Has
answer
that
that though.
beard, that scar. He's a huge guy.
Mhm.
Yeah,
But he did injure
but
his eye.
actually he's like.
Oh, sorry. You can
No,
keep
go
going.
ahead.
Oh, okay. He did injure his eye at a concert because he was protecting a fan, which again just solidifies him as a really caring, gentle guy. But
Mm.
I also just want to quickly mention that there is kind of similarities between him and his dog, because we all know that he has a pit bull, and they're known as to be a
Yeah.
really aggressive breeding dog that's violent. But then from the little that we're getting a new, I don't know if anyone saw it, but there's a leak of remember they had to redesign it because his old art depicted the bulldog
Oh
like really
yeah.
scary, but there's problems with that because obviously they're always depicted as that, and that's not true. So they redesigned it, and now they're doing like a really cute, wholesome one based on Jeff's love of art. And that's
Yeah,
what pit bulls are. They're just wholesome little dogs, even though they look scary and
Mm-hmm.
and people think they're scary. And then it's the same for Jeff. People look at him, think he's scary. He looks scary, but he's actually a really sweet, soft, gentle giant. It's a perfect dog for him.
Yeah. I think Jeff hits a kind of a checkpoint in terms of lore too, because I think he was the first survivor to have a very distinct connection to the Legion,
Mhm.
to his killer.
Mhm.
Whereas at no before him, there was no distinct connections at all, except for maybe Nia, but that was very fleeting, and he didn't. There wasn't any one-on-one interaction. Where with Jeff, there was,
Mhm.
and it's very, it's interesting that Jeff was the one to start this trend, because from a lore standpoint, there isn't a lot there. It was mostly just him doing art for them. But it's significant in that it shows that behavior at that time was starting to kind of change or expand on their lore writing and actually intermingling characters in a game.
Mhm.
And I remember, so apparently, I don't remember if this was in Tome or one of the Legion's tomes. I don't remember specifically, but there is somebody I remember reading in a forum post where there's implications that the Legion had something to do with his parents,
Mm.
and I don't remember what exactly it was because I need to reread his lore again. Where his dad was killed, wasn't he?
I don't remember. I'm gonna be
I
honest.
don't remember. One of his parents was killed.
I know that his dad passed away, but I
But that
don't
was
know if he
later
was
on. Yeah,
killed.
that was
Maybe.
later on in his life,
Yeah.
though. Which
Interesting. Maybe not. But there's something in his lore that indicated that the Legion has some more to do with his life than initially thought.
the only problem
Um,
is that
and the reason he
um,
came back.
Jeff goes back to Ormond, and the Legion has always
Yeah.
stayed in Ormond. So it wouldn't really make sense that the Legion would be elsewhere, and then he would be able to kill his dad since the Legion has always been in Ormond. But I mean, it's
I
still a
mean, that's unless his
possibility.
family stayed in Ormond.
I mean, maybe. Yeah, maybe
I don't
he
remember
left his
exactly what
family
it
in
was. I need
Ormond
to
and
find
then
it somewhere.
left elsewhere. Yeah, I
I
don't know.
mean, his parents divorced, and he went to and he moved in with his mother. I don't. I'm looking for it, but I can't find anything about his father being dead.
Was it ours?
Interesting.
Sadly.
I don't remember. It's been a while.
I know it was a while when I read it too. I don't
I
remember,
think I don't
but
know what the problem is exactly, but I think a lot of people Jeff just isn't that memorable of a character. The only reason I remember him a lot is because one, he's connected to Legion, and two, he's Canadian like me. So I wish,
yeah, he
I
doesn't have
wish,
a tome, does he?
yeah. What
No.
else?
That's
And
right.
I
Does he
wish
have
That's
a
right.
tone?
they really expanded on him because he has so much potential too to
He
explore
does.
different themes of, things, or even like one of the most heartbreaking lines in his lore, like after weeks of not hearing back from Jeff, his colleagues assumed that the grief had gotten the best of him. And it's like they
Hmm.
just assumed, oh, okay, well he, you know, is just not here. Okay. And then no one bothered to look for him. No one bothered, but I think clearly maybe he had, it's, you know, signs of just mental illness or depression stuff in the past too. And I think that would be interesting to explore later and expand upon who he is and how maybe he would overcome this. And he found that solace in music and art and
Yeah.
being able to express himself in different ways versus just
See?
being this tough, scary looking guy.
Yeah, I feel like they could definitely do more with him. I'm unlike the other characters though, I don't really know where they could go with him. Maybe I don't know. I feel like I'm in a standstill and I'm not even writing him, but I just I feel like they told his complete story, but like I don't know what they could do to make it better. Obviously, there's still stuff we don't know, like more of his early life, more about his family, and stuff like that. But yeah, I don't know. Guess we'll have to see.
Maybe a bit more about his art and how he views it, what it is to him.
Yeah,
Because artists, well, make art to reflect themselves, or it's a escape from something. I'd like to see what it is for Jeff.
yeah, that's a good idea. I like that. Because
Mhm.
yeah, if he was suffering with mental illness or struggling with his mental illness, I mean, then his art would definitely be expressive about himself. Also, the
Oh, it was
poor
a theory.
doggy.
Okay, I remember what it was. It was a theory that the janitor looked kind of like Jeff, so people thought theorized that Jeff's father was the janitor.
Oh, I see.
The
That's what
only
it was.
thing that is said in his lore is that his father passed. That's absolutely it.
Yeah.
Oh, which is why it was so vague. Yeah, that's what it was. I'm like, I've got to find it somewhere, and it's here. Yeah, it was theory that never canon, of course, that the janitor was actually Jeff's father,
Interesting. People are so creative
which is
with these theories,
an
man.
interesting, yeah, an interesting take on it. Yeah.
I could never. But yeah,
So,
just
Jeff,
like Dwight, do justice to my boy Jeff.
He needs more cosmetics. He needs more story.
Yeah,
Please, babe.
exactly.
Yep, agreed.
kind of foreshadowing
Poor boy.
his,
Poor Jeff. And then the Legion is like behavior, and the opposite Legion is like behavior's love child. I mean, they're like they love the Legion. They love them, just absolutely love them. I mean, the
They love
Legion are
all of them
getting their
except
own
for Gilly.
comic. Like, I feel like they're getting all the. It's like Jeff's like the oldest sibling. They're giving all the attention to the youngest sibling, and then leaving Jeff behind.
Yeah.
They don't have any love left. Poor Jeff.
Poor Jeff. Is there anything else guys want to say about Jeff Johannesson?
I don't think so. I think it's hard, to kind of expand on his stuff because it is so vague and there
Mm-hmm.
isn't a lot. And it just kind of is like, oh, he did this and then he lived a quiet life. And
Yeah,
Oh,
honestly.
I guess fun fact: people thought that he might have Nordic origins.
Yeah.
hmm,
Isn't that in his lore? I can't remember exactly.
Is it in his lore? Oh gosh, I don't remember. I skimmed through his.
Oh, I think is it just because he mentioned something about his Nordic roots in one of his art
Norway?
pieces in
Yeah, I think so.
his
Maybe.
perks?
Yeah,
I think that's what it might be.
because people, or maybe it was his last name too. I don't remember. People were thinking
Yeah,
that he might have Norwegian, like
one of the
Nordic
ones.
Norwegian. And it was interesting.
Yeah, I think it has to be a description of his perk because his or I don't know if a perk or like a cosmetic. I don't know. I don't know. Description of something. Oh, wasn't it the oh, I don't even know what it's called. Whatever. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Let's move on to the next character.
Mhm.
Our last for today.
Yeah, because we've been at this for 2 hours and 20 minutes, and
my
we're only halfway
gosh.
through, so yeah, we'll have to
Oh
Oh
come
God.
God.
back.
Oh.
But we've got Jane Romero.
Ah,
Yes,
yes. So
the daughter of a fair
Jane,
actress. Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say Jane is the start of what I like to call the girl boss era.
Yes,
Yes.
exactly. Actually, all of the girls, except maybe, do you consider Michaela a girl boss?
Not in the way that Elodie and um,
No, I would consider Yunjin more of a boss.
Yeah.
Girl
Okay. So
boss.
that yes. So other than up until Michaela, all the female survivors since starting at Jane and named Michaela are girl bosses. So you're right about the girl boss era thing.
yeah, and I mean girl boss in the way that they're written as these, and not in a bad way at all. It's just there's a pattern that was noticeable where they're starting writing their women as these strong ladies
Yes.
who were taking control of their own lives,
Mhm.
which of course isn't a bad thing. It's just something that was noticeable from the release of Jane onto um, who was next? Rick,
After Jane,
Yui,
it's
and then
Yui.
yeah,
Then
Yui, and then
Zarina
Elodie,
and Elodie
Serena.
and yep.
Yeah,
And Jin.
so
Yeah.
there was this entire era of just girls of ladies who had this kind of similar theme, the girl boss theme, as I like to call, which of course, like I said again, isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it was kind of repetitive by the time Elodie came out. So I was kind of glad they took a break. Um, but their stories are all still unique. But yeah, James was the start of it,
Mhm.
and for Jane, she's interesting. She isn't necessarily, well, I won't say she's not relatable, but um she lives a lifestyle that not many of us, if any of us who play DVD would live, you which makes her a little hard to really get a hang of first, but then you take into account her tone, which came out, which did an okay job at kind of describing the hardships she went through as a Latina actress or host, you know,
Mhm.
going and experiencing the stereotypes of casting, which very much still exists to this day. Um, and even though we may not relate to that sense of being an actress and a successful hostess, I think we can probably, those of us who may be people of color, would probably understand and kind of empathize with Jane's struggles as being a person of color in the spotlight kind of way, you know?
Mhm. Not even that. Like, just generally, I think a lot of people relate to just the struggle of trying to find a solid career these days, and not even that,
Mm-hmm.
but struggling with burnout and struggling with feeling like you're
Oh,
stuck in one
exactly. Yeah.
spot and can't get out. Right?
Sure.
Like, I think Jane might be one of the most like diversely relatable characters ever. Like, there's so many aspects to her that so many different kinds of people can relate to, and I think that's what I really like about her lore. Like, it explores so much, but not in a way that it's overwhelming. You know?
Yeah,
Right,
she
right.
stands
Yeah.
out.
Yeah, compared to someone like Kate, who's almost like has zero almost has zero problems in her life, and then someone with Jane, whose life is a constant turmoil. Like, but it doesn't do it in a
Mm-hmm.
way that makes it seem like, oh, my life's horrible. I nothing get
Right.
right. Like, she still
You
has her
you you can
victories.
feel, yeah, you can feel that her entire life was a bit of an uphill battle,
Mm-hmm.
and even if she achieved success, came at the expense of her having to resist just living as the stereotypes that was put on her, you
Mm-hmm.
know, which is inspiring, and
It
I like
is.
it.
It is.
Um, so if they were to give her any more tomes or another tome, I guess I don't know what to do,
Honestly.
what they would do with her, because really, I mean, maybe she needs a little bit more of a broader arc than just overcoming the typical casting stereotypes with being a person of color, because that was essentially what the message was for her tome at that
Mm-hmm.
time.
Maybe more of her early
Um,
life, like relationship with her family and stuff. Because it mentions that her
yeah,
relationship with her mother isn't so good, and her relationship with her father's all
right,
right,
right.
but
Yeah, she
it's her
was
mother that
raised
she
by
has
her
to.
father pretty much.
Yeah, it's her mother that she has to like get over, and like either their relationship needs to be explored more, or um, the effects of having a not so good relationship with her mother can be looked at more.
Yeah, maybe her growing up years,
Yeah,
but mm,
yeah, but I feel like she's a pretty fulfilling character. Like, it did a really good job of covering her kind of story, I think, and describing who she is as a person.
Yeah, she fits the kind of celebrity trope without being too on the nose.
Mhm.
Because she's a celebrity, but that doesn't mean she was entirely privileged and where she was up until the fog took her. You know?
Mhm. The only thing I'm not too sure. I don't know if it's supposed to have meaning or not, but like, I can't figure out like what it's supposed to be saying and how she got took by the realm. Most of the characters, when it explains where they got captured by the entity, it's some sort of meaningful place or something that has some sort of impact toward them or their story. But Jane, she just kind of falls into the ocean, drives into the ocean. I know it's
Yeah,
because
that
she
was
was
weird.
overworked and overloaded on over the counter medicine and just tired. But why specifically make her drive off a cliff into the ocean? That's what I've been trying to think about and figure out. I don't know if they trying to do meaning, trying to put meaning into it, but it seems meaningful even though I cannot find that meaning for the life of me.
it stated in her lore that she was, while she was in the car, she was driving to her father um, to talk with him about how she wasn't feeling like herself. Maybe it's the fact that she was tired, because as I'm looking at her lore, it's like said how she was tired and
Yeah,
she's slowly closing her eyes and she feels heavy. And maybe that's the point of it, that she was tired of this constant routine of her maybe success, and
yeah.
she just fell into the ocean and fell asleep. Let's call it that.
I think I can think is that maybe they're trying to be really meta and being like, oh, she fell into the water because she's drowning in her responsibilities and drowning her self doubt and something like that. That's the only thing I could think of.
Mm.
But behavior. They love being meta.
Yeah.
But yeah, other than that, no, I think she's very well written, and I'm glad they covered so many things. Anything else you guys think about Jane?
She's thick.
Yeah.
I will say that I love and appreciate how they introduce someone of a different body type, and she's still flawlessly beautiful.
Yes,
Like
yes.
she is a queen.
Yeah, they also talk
Gorgeous.
about it in
Yo,
them a little bit, like how some of her talk shows, she talks about body positivity, and I like how they do that, like that little tiny little, they put it in there, but they're not like making her different body type a whole ass freaking the whole point of her lore, the whole character. I appreciated that.
don't fetishize her. Like, if she wears a dress, it's not like her boobs are all out and she shows her curves. No, she's actually kind of covered and disrespectful.
Yeah, I like how they
She,
handled it.
yes.
Well,
I
unlike some of
love
the
drawing.
community.
Holy shit.
But yeah, no, I think Jane's well done. I like Jane. Do I feel like maybe they could do even more to make her more stand out more? Maybe. I don't know what,
I
but
think so.
they probably
Or
could.
even
Yeah,
just
I mean,
like
there's a lot.
kind of going back to like, oh, a certain event in her life, where now I think some, characters have the like where they were just focusing too much on one single event where you don't know anything, and
Mhm.
then others where, oh, here's this broad thing, but now it's like, okay, well, I want to know this one thing, or I want to see them in this situation. And I
Mhm.
think seeing her, growing up or like seeing something like that would be kind of cool.
It would. Yeah. So, if there's anything else you guys want to say, then I
Oh,
suppose
we're
No,
only
I think
halfway through, are we?
yeah. Then I say
Oh,
to be continued because it has been 2 hours and 30 minutes, not 3 hours, 2 hours and 30 minutes,
oh
and we're
my
only halfway
gosh.
through. So we should come
oh,
back another day.
I agree with that.
But yeah, I
And
think
especially the ones coming up, there's a lot.
yeah, there's a
Oh, I
lot
Because
of
have a
they're the
lot to
ones
licensed
say
that are
about.
characters from
real
now on,
long.
but
There's a lot I have to say about Yui.
yeah, there's also a lot. These characters are pretty in depth. Some of them are anyway. So yeah, but I think overall, Behavior does a good job writing their lore. There are some places where it's obvious that, they're a team. Like maybe they're mis under communicated, or some staffing switches cause there to be retcons. But overall, their characters have a lot of potential, and it's just up to them to use that potential to do something good. Like I think all the characters we talked about today are good and well written, maybe with the exception of Dwight. But
Poor Dwight. Holy shit.
Oh, Dwight, he's just kind of there.
he's just kind of existing at this point.
Hang in there,
Yeah.
buddy.
Summary of this podcast, Dwight. uh, yeah. Well, I suppose, Hannah, do you have anything else to say until we continue another day?
Um, I, I don't think so. I think we said a lot.
We did, we
We
I
did.
did.
think kind of yeah, overall the lore, I like what they're doing, behavior, how they are expanding, and I liked the integration of the tomes and stuff. And I remember when they first announced it, and people were like, they better be good. And there was that real like we want this, but we weren't sure how behavior was going to handle it. And I think that they've done a really good job at giving the right amount of depth to these characters, but also leaving mystery and introducing more mysteries that
Mm-hmm.
we can like hopefully find out answers for
Agreed.
sometime down the line.
Maya, have anything to say?
Well, I'm very excited about the next part, but about today. Well, it was great to talk about lore and characters because I barely ever can talk about them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, well, I'd like to speak about the topic of alternative universes next time because I think
Oh
that's
yeah.
very interesting, but I believe we need to prepare more for that because it's
I was I was excited on touching on that because I think Michaela's tome like really touches on like alternate universes too a little bit. So, or not her tome, but her um and so yeah. I agree. I think that would be really fun to talk about next time.
Yeah.
gotten lately like a lot of magic kind of people. Like there's Vittorio, Michaela,
Patty.
and yeah, Hadi, and
Oh,
also
Hattie the baddie.
Hadi the Buddy, and Yoichi. A lot of them. I see others.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like a lot of people are getting scared by all this introduction to the magic characters, and they're like, "What happened to this realistic world?" I'm like, "Guys, it was never realistic. These guys are all in the realm of a spider monster that wants to suck out all their bad emotions." Like, it makes sense that there's exploring the magic and the supernatural aspects of this world and the world that they live in. I guess not the world that we live in, but Yeah. Well, Scorn, anything you have to say?
Um, I mean, I think the other two kind of spoke more about what I was going to say anyway. They're doing a pretty good job, and I think we can really see from Dwight all the way to Vittorio how much their lore has evolved and their
Mm-hmm.
lore writing has improved.
Definitely.
Because we went from just paragraphs or maybe two paragraphs to entire full-fledged essays
Yeah.
on or novellas on these characters. And as we go to the second half with a lot of these characters, which at this point have begun to adopt the more extended base lore, it'll be exciting going into them because I think they have a lot more to them in their base than the first half that we've done so far. So,
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you guys so much for being here. We'll have to reconvene at a later time.
Yes. Well, thank you for
mhm.
having me.
Of
This is fun.
course. It is. It really is. I'm so happy you guys came along and that you're having a good time. Because honestly, who doesn't just want to sit around talking about stuff they like for 2 hours?
All
For
right.
real.
But yeah, we'll come back and we'll cover Yui, Zarina, Felix, Elodie, Yunjin, Michaela, well, Jonah. I always forget Jonah.
Oh god,
Yoichi,
Jonah,
Dwight
Hattie, and
2.0.
Vittorio.
I have some words for Jonah.
Oh,